What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is a story where Izuku died and sent to Helluva boss. Disappointed by the government's dark side towards its heroes, Izuku abandoned his life as a hero after committing a horrible act and decided to follow Lady Nagant on her mission to cleanse that corruption. Suddenly, one day he wakes up in the middle of an alley, memories of how he arrived. Why does that sign say Imp City? But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Also, this is a translate version, you may find some mistakes, specifically in the character's gender. Izuku of course is a male, this no changes in the genders. With that out, let's get into the story. The pair of crows could be seen cawing in a red-tinged sky, dropping a few of their feathers that flew through the dirty alleys, with the sound of the birds echoing, going deeper and deeper until a dark corner where a feather landed on a lump among the garbage, which slowly began to move. Ah, my head. In the darkness of that same corner, a black silhouette placed a hand on his head. Ah. What happened? He looked around to get a better look at the surroundings. Am I in an alley? I don't remember coming here. Ugh. He slowly got up from his place with difficulty, immediately leaning against a wall when he felt his legs trembling. At a slow pace he walked towards the exit of the alley, noticing in the silhouette a couple of pointy things sticking out above his head and two hanging from the side of it. Damn. I feel like my brain is going to explode. Ah, my head. The silhouette with light green fur around its mouth was babbling as it clenched its teeth, slowly approaching the light outside the alley. Coming to the end, he covered his eyes as he tried to get used to the strong light in front of him for a couple of seconds, until finally looking straight ahead. But what he saw left him speechless. Hoo-wunk. Whoa. The sound of the truck passing very close to him forced him to jump back, seeing clearly once he had passed what seemed to be a very different city than the one he had recorded himself in a few moments ago. All the buildings were not in ruins, but were in perfect condition where the predominant colors were between black, red and yellow. I could feel a heavier and more lustful feeling in the environment than normal, and the sky was completely treated in red with a devilish bright pentagram, in which it encompassed beyond what I could appreciate. Imp City. He read the huge sign on top of a building in confusion. He didn't recognize the name of the city or that he had ever been there. This seemed strange to him at first, as he didn't recognize the city at all. What is this? Interrupting his thoughts, he stares in astonishment at the people walking by on the street, only they didn't look like people. They had red skin, horns on their heads, and long pointy tails. Both men and women were seen walking down the street with those same characteristics, each wearing a different outfit in shades of black and red. They didn't look like people with quirks. They all had that same appearance, so I dismissed that idea. The word demon immediately came to mind, but that would be ridiculous. There was surely a logical description for each person to look like that. Right. This is weird. Leaving the crowd, I look up at the red pentagram sky. Too weird. He looked everywhere trying to locate some hero in the area, but he only saw those strange people there, so he decided to walk around doing the same to see where exactly he was. As I continued, I noticed that crime and drugs were everywhere. Different people were stealing, taking drugs, traveling between each other or even fighting each other. Not just those red-skinned people, but also others who looked like anthropomorphic animals, anatomized objects, or simply seemed like nightmare monsters. Why were there no heroes or police officers on site? Why was there so much crime everywhere? Something strange happened and it's not just the sky or the people. He muttered to himself, clearly seeing everything around him. Okay, calm down Izuku, think carefully about the situation, and try to retrace your steps. Izuku placed a hand over his mouth thoughtfully. The last thing I remember is that I had located the target and immediately went to confront him with the support Lady Nagant. As he walked, some who passed by him saw him strange for muttering alone, so they avoided him, or in the case of some mothers, kept their children away from that madman. We were in the office where I was supposed to be present writing a fake article to cover up the actions of another hero, but he sighed, scratching the back of his neck. I don't remember anything else. What happened next? He walked past a shop window where he saw his reflection as he continued walking in complete silence. Until he suddenly stopped. In an instant, he opened his eyes wide and turned quickly to the window to look at his reflection and yep, he shouts at the top of his lungs, bringing the whole city back. Chapter 1. I'm a demon. Now what? Izuku had a crazed and nervous expression as he shakily registered with his hands his new face that was now completely different in every way. His skin was no longer skin, instead he now had a light aqua green fur, along with a lighter shade around his mouth, with a dark nose. Hair was the same as always, but now he also had a pair of black horns with a green striped pattern and a pair of large ears the same color as his fur. He was wearing his hero costume completely torn with the top part in tatters, showing that like his face, his body had also been covered by fur, but he still retained all his scars and physical condition, having a tuft of white hair on his chest and a bushy tail behind which moved from side to side. "What happened to me?" he exclaimed, upset, touching his horns and pulling his ears to see if they were fake. Is this real?" he wondered, feeling the pain while his tail continued to move without stopping. "And how do I calm this down?" "Stop." He tried to hold her euphorically to calm her down, but she still kept moving as if she had a conscience of her own. Blip. Suddenly, before entering the madness, the window lit up while newsreel music was present, attracting his attention. The window belonged to a television store. "Good afternoon, demons of hell. Greeting you, here is your hot and sexy newswoman Katie Killjoy from News Station 666 with the most juicy exclusives, very recent from the Pentagon," exclaimed a pale thin-figured commentator with an arrogant smile. "And I'm his partner, Tom Trench," another commentator said calmly, holding papers. He turned out to be a short man wearing a gas mask. "Yeah, nobody cares," Katie said, smiling without taking her eyes off the camera, taking her coffee cup and throwing its contents under the writing, making the man jump. "Ahhhhhh. My balls. Ahhhhhh." Tom exclaimed in desperation, leaving his place, throwing all the papers and running all over the place desperately with both hands on his jewelry. Ignoring the suffering he intentionally caused his partner with a smile, he kept his gaze fixed on the camera, back to what's important. He approached with a homicidal smile of excitement. New battles between demons for territory are being disputed bloodily exclusively in new points of Imp City and the Pentagon. All alongside the appearance of a new gang known as the Gatherers, who are gaining more ground and influence in the confines of Imp City, but before that. He returned to his place with a calm expression. "We'll stop by with the weather report on the west side. Kyle. Get your fucking ass here now," he shouted in complete rage, looking to the side off camera. "If you're going to interrupt my exclusive, finish the fuck up and get your fucking ass out of my studio, you fucking faggot." "Ah!" Tom screamed, still running desperately through the studio, this time having his crotch on fire. "Please. Bring a fire extinguisher. My balls are burning. Literally. Why?" As the show continued in a totally colossal disaster of epic proportions, with more assorted screams and loud profanities than your neighbor when his soccer team misses a goal, Izuku, with his face completely pale, felt like he was having a cardiac arrest from what he had just heard on that newscast. Izuku was smart and quite conscientious when it came to analyzing the situation, that much is well known. The red sky with a diabolical diagram, countless crimes everywhere, red-skinned people with horns and pointy tails. All of that led him to the only logical conclusion that left him terrified to the bone. "Am I in hell?" he whispered out of his mind, his face growing paler and paler. "So, that means I'm. He wasn't even able to finish that sentence as he grabbed his head, trying to calm his thoughts and his rapid breathing from the lack of air he felt as he came to the conclusion. But he was completely dead. How did this happen? Why am I in hell? How did I die?" he exclaimed to the point of madness, seeing his reflection again that was considered to be the appearance of a demon. "The last thing I remember is accompanying Lady Nagant to the objective in the building. But only that. I don't remember anything else after that. How the hell did I die?" he screamed, pulling down his long ears due to the mental stress he was going through right now. Crash. Ow. Hey. The loud bang behind him brought him out of his thoughts, watching as a longhorn demon was thrown against some trash cans by a pair of larger, stronger demons, both looking like mustachioed bikers. Well, it seems the clown came to our territory alone to recover his car. What do you think about this, Brother Boyd?" the demon asked his companion amusedly. "I think you didn't learn your lesson from the boss, Brother Ibot," the twin replied, cracking his fists. "I think we'll have to make him understand the message the hard way this time. Ah. Shit. I swear I'll kill Moxie for not letting me know about the overdue phone payment." BLITZO muttered in pain among the garbage, because of his employee, he had no way to communicate with his team and order a torn black collar coat with red buttons, black boots, large black gloves with yellow eyes and a small collar with a red skull on the neck. "I'll see what's going on later," the green-haired man declared, leaving this disturbing topic for a moment, getting into position to use his power and go to her aid. "Full crawling. 20%. he exclaimed, jumping. Splat. And falling face down on the floor. Taking off from the ground with a loud pop. He looked confused. He got up and tried to activate One for All again, but nothing happened, so he tried the same with the other wielder's powers like Black Whip, Smokescreen or Floater. But it was the same result. What happened to my powers? Izuku stared at his hands in astonishment. Besides being dead, he no longer had his powers. How was he supposed to fight two demons twice his size without them? Trying to think of a quick solution, he looked everywhere for something useful he could use, but there was nothing, ending his gaze at the floor, seeing his reflection in a puddle with his torn clothes. Taking him by the neck, one of the brothers faced him smiling arrogantly at the imp. "We already told you, BLITZO, your car now belongs to the boss. There's no point in acting brave against us, you have no chance against the collectors." Hahaha, he laughed, while he watched the little demon trying to free himself. "Okay, first of all it's Blitz, the O is silent, asshole. Second, that's a stupid name, who the hell calls themselves, the collectors is a gang name. And third, that's my car." BLITZO yelled angrily, trying to free himself even more. "I bought it with the money I used to steal from Moxie at night while he was fucking Millie. Give it back to me now," he demanded, then pulled a golden pistol out of his pocket, pointing it at his face, but before he could pull the trigger, the other demon twisted his arm from behind, causing him to drop the gun. "Wah. I'm getting tired of your incessant chatter, clown." He brought the knife closer while smiling sinisterly. "Let's see how sharp that tongue is while you choke on your own blood." Just as he was about to cut it, the arm holding the knife suddenly became wrapped in green rags. "Oh." Before he could say anything, a green-furred demon performed a flawless acrobatic leap over the holding the other end, all before the eyes of the three. Black whip. Landing behind him, he pulled with all his might on the other end of the rope made from the destroyed upper part of the suit, forcing him to release his victim when, propelled by a greater force, he was thrown to impact hard with a loud bang face first into the alley wall. BLITZO looked surprised. "What the hell? Brother Ibid," exclaimed the other demon, shocked seeing his motionless companion embedded in the wall. "Grrrrrrr. Bastard," he shouted, dropping Blitz to the floor and throwing his fist with the intention of hurting him, but he had dodged it by jumping up several meters from the "what's that" scratch. Ugh. Plum. He had no time to react when his head was crushed against the ground by a powerful impact from the landing on both of the young man's legs, leaving him unconscious with the imprint of his face on the pavement. "Wow, I didn't think I had that much strength in my legs. I think I jumped like 20 feet. Leaving her thoughts, she turned to the demon to offer her hand. "Are you okay?" Snapping out of his daze, he accepted his help to get up. "Blitz. And yes, I'm okay." Blitz introduced himself as he dusted off his suit. Thanks for the help, but who the hell are you?" "Oh, sorry for not introducing myself before, a lot happened to me in a short time. My name is Izuku." The green-haired man introduced himself with a closed-eyed smile, "and you're welcome. Okay, now that the introductions are over, let me tell you something, kid," BLITZO said seriously with a narrowed gaze, making him think he was going to complain about not asking for his help at any point. You were amazing," he exclaimed in total emotion, leaving the young man confused by the sudden change in attitude. "I mean, with just a torn shirt and a kick you beat those two gorillas just now, that's priceless. You sure are strong. Despite not looking like it, of course." The demon praised while interestingly registering his surroundings. "Oh, thanks for that." Izuku thanked with a slight blush of embarrassment at the first compliment he had in a long time, other than from Lady Nagant. "Well, I have to go, be careful where you walk next time," he said goodbye to the demon, ready to turn around and see what he did next with this whole stressful situation of his inexplicable death. "No. Wait." BLITZO throws himself at his feet to hold him back with a desperate expression. "You have to help me, please," he begged him, trying to hold back his tears. "The gang those idiots belong to took my car to their lair and planned to destroy it for their amusement. I can't let them do that to my baby. Not to mention my work is too far away and I'm not going to walk there anyway. What was I? Oh yeah, help me." I scream, a tearful mess. Izuku didn't know what to think about it anymore. A demon from hell itself was crying and begging him for help to recover his car that was stolen by a gang of demons who looked like motorcyclists. At that moment he could feel his brain shut down because of how ridiculous this would sound in the world of the living. Mental sigh, but it was a fact that he couldn't deny help to someone who needed it. It was in his nature after all. Okay, I'll help you." The young man quickly responded to get her to stop acting like that. It made him really uncomfortable to see an adult like that. "You don't need to beg for that, I just..." "Perfect," BLITZO exclaimed, smiling, immediately standing up as if nothing had happened before the bewildered furry. "So what are you still doing standing there, big-eared?" Without erasing his smile, he pulled out his gun. "Let's go lick some ass." I think the correct expression is kick ass," the young man commented with sweat. BLITZO shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. Mine's better." Playing it down, he started walking down the same alley he was thrown from. "Just follow me, I know the way." "Okay," Izuku replied, grabbing the improvised rope of rags from the ground to follow him along the indicated path. What a peculiar demon. As they walked down the dirty alleyway led by Blitz, Izuku began to debate in his mind the context of his situation. With all the evidence in place, I already understood that he was really quite dead and ended up straight in hell, but the strange thing there was not his death, however impressive it may be, but more in what hell itself was like. It was completely different from what he had been taught, and although many of those things were not wrong, the fact was that this hell seemed almost like a second life with its own civilization. This already seemed like one of those well-known isekai animes, and that is why I reiterate, everything was ridiculous, and more than far from the teachings of any existing biblical culture. Hey Blitz. The young man looked down as he walked behind him. Is this hell? BLITZO craned his neck, looking at him confused. Really? Of course this is hell, what else would it be? He replied before looking back at the road. Ha, what a stupid question. Did you hit your head or something? Why yeah. Maybe that's it. He said, embarrassed by his question, but he wanted to confirm this in someone else's words to see if this was real. By the way, what is that gang like? Believe me when I tell you they're all weirdos with inflated muscles. BLITZO said in disgust. How? Izuku looked confused by that weird thing. They dress like old-fashioned bikers and call themselves the collectors because they collect stolen cars and destroy them in their hideout like it's some cheap show. But not only is their name bad, but they make themselves look like baddest bikers because of all the black leather they wear, but none of them know how to ride a fucking motorcycle. That makes no fucking sense. I exclaim, clearly irritated by this annoying detail. What's the point of looking the part if it doesn't fit the role at all? Ugh. The drop on Izuku's neck grew larger when he finished the demon's peculiar story due to such an eccentric description. He literally didn't know what to say about it and just stared at the pentagram sky through the busy alley, continuing his walk in complete silence. Okay, we're here. BLITZO said in a low voice as they both hid behind some trash cans, and the demon looked at them. Just look at them, it's like I told you, a group of identical cockroaches and not a single motorcycle in sight. They make me sick. Peeking out his gaze as well, Izuku was able to confirm that what the demon was saying was true. Just outside the alley they entered, they had a large car dumpster in front of them that covered the entire block of that street, with different cars stacked there like decorations, while they were surrounded by a barbed metal fence. Through it, he could see several demons just like the ones he defeated before patrolling the place with chains and iron bars in their hands, all wearing the same set of black leather that made them look just like Blitz told him. Wow. Seriously, they all look the same. Yeah, I know. I'm sure your boss has some kind of leather fetish or something. Luckily for us, she's not here today, so we have a chance to break in and find my car. So. I look at him smiling, my gun ready. What's the plan, big-eared? Do we launch a sneak attack and fill all your holes with lead? There are too many of them, they would all launch themselves at the same time to attack us, not to mention that they could destroy your car before approaching as a precaution. BLITZO looked at him bored and frowned, lowering his weapon reluctantly, but I think there is something I could do to focus everyone's attention while we search for the car. Although it is somewhat risky, he commented, unsure, looking at his hands. You convinced me with risky. What do you have in mind? BLITZO asked with interest. As two demons walked bored guarding the entrance of the garbage dump from one place to another, both stopped their route when they saw a young green demon walking calmly towards them, but he was shirtless, showing multiple scars on him. What's that kid doing? One of the demons asked in surprise. Is he suicidal? Doesn't he know this is our territory? Nah, he's just a kid, he probably got lost and is looking for directions. Let me get rid of him. The other commented nonchalantly as he approached the entrance to scare him away. He was bored anyway because the boss wasn't there, and maybe scaring him would entertain him a bit. Stopping his steps, he watched in surprise as the boy suddenly started running intensely and launched himself towards him in a flying kick. Meanwhile, in the central section of the dump, everyone was engrossed in their own business, whether playing cards, arm wrestling, or quietly sharpening knives, due to the deathly silence that prevailed over the place. Plum. Everyone stopped what they were doing the moment they saw one of their own flying away, eventually hitting a pile of cars and making a loud reverberation throughout the place. They all turned their surprised gazes to the entrance where they saw the young green demon with his leg extended, standing next to the other guard who looked terrified by the great force with which he kicked his companion out of nowhere. My name is Izuku Midoriya. Lowering his leg, he placed both fists on his hips, standing firm with a determined expression, and I come to challenge the harvesters to a territorial fight. There were a few seconds of silence in which the groans of the beaten guard could be heard. Just before everyone screamed angrily and threw themselves at him in slow motion with their weapons in hand, because if there was one thing they wouldn't let pass, it was a threat. You're dead, kid. exclaimed one of the many demons taking the initiative and tried to hit him with a pipe, but Izuku jumped to the side of his attack that hit the ground, leaving him open to a hook to the chin, stunning him, finishing with a quick kick, sending him crashing into a group of 5 demons like bowling pins. Spinning chains, a duo of grinning hyena-like demons, ran in front of and behind him, intending to corner him, but failed as he jumped back, causing them to growl in annoyance, thus starting a chase after the young man where they continued to point their weapons at him, being one failure after another, as Izuku moved with Parker through the garbage around him. Even without powers, he could somehow still move with agility. Breathing heavily from the chase, she saw Izuku land on the ground with a slight wobble from stepping wrong, and there she saw the opportunity that made them smile. "Your ass is ours. Your ass is ours," they both exclaimed, throwing both chains with force. Seeing the right moment, the young man jumped high from the attack, causing the chains to pass by, and hit hard against the faces of both demons, falling to the ground with giant red marks on their faces from pain. Feeling a slight movement in his ears, the green-haired man immediately turned around to catch the gang member's fist, as he tried to ambush him with both hands. Damn it. A demon's scream behind him made him duck, blocking his swing with a pipe, the demon who blocked his fist being the recipient of the blow. "Ah, sorry." But as soon as he could react, Izuku placed himself on his hands and spun around, giving both legs a spinning kick to the faces of both demons, throwing them incapacitated to the ground. Standing back up, he quickly threw his arm to the ground, pulling out his makeshift whip, then wrapped it around the wrists of a gang member who caught him off guard and pulled him towards him, managing to deliver a high kick to the face, leaving the rest of the gang members who surrounded him surprised as they watched their partner slowly fall to the ground with the mark of the soul on his face. Okay. The gang turns their gazes to Izuku, watching him stand guard with a rope on the floor. Who's next? While Izuku was facing the demons, among the shadows of the scrap metal, Blitz could be seen silently sneaking towards the center of the warehouse, where they surely had his car stored. Flashback. "I'll keep them busy as long as possible, while you sneak off to get your car and get out of here." Izuku clicked his hands, wrapping his shirt around his gloves like a rope. "Wow, wait, are you really going to go against all those weirdos by yourself? You don't even have a weapon, are you suicidal?" Blitz asked with a raised eyebrow. "I mean, I don't judge you to be like that, everyone has the right to their own psychological disorder or mental breakdown. We didn't come here to fight them, but to recover what they stole from you, and since I see that I won't be able to use reason, I'll try to keep them distracted as long as possible, while you search the area for your vehicle. Don't worry, I'm used to dealing with several people at once," he told her seriously. "Ugh, man. Too much information." BLITZO exclaimed in disgust, making the young man blush violently at the double meaning he said. No. That's not what I meant. I just. Ugh. Izuku let out a listless sigh, wanting to get back to the main topic. "Do you know something that provokes them? Something that attracts everyone?" "The FFF, that's easy, they're a gang that took over this area, you just have to beat up one of their own, and then declare loudly that you're here to delay them for a turf battle, that'll immediately set them on fire like a bitch on Independence Day." BLITZO replied, amused. "Oh okay. Thanks," Izuku said, somewhat uneasy about such a metaphor, putting the rope behind him and jumping out of his hiding place, seeing the entrance of the dumpster. "I'll wait for you at the exit. Be careful." End of flashback. Moving through the garbage like a ninja, with movements and music that he hummed with amusement, he poked his head up a second floor to look in the direction of the young man who continued to keep the gang members at bay, knocking them out one by one with an instant punch or kick. "Heh, that kid is completely crazy," BLITZO muttered, hiding a smile, before continuing with his part of the plan. Hiding behind a car, he saw a closed workshop being guarded by 2 demons. "Shit." BLITZO muttered and then pulled out his pistol, ready to jump out of his seat and fill the bastards who robbed him with lead. Just as he was waiting to launch himself, a pair of demons called for reinforcements, immediately going to the call and leaving the place completely unprotected to BLITZO's surprise. "Wow, who would have thought?" he said, smiling with satisfaction as he put away his weapon. "I was really lucky to meet him." Jumping out of hiding, he ran to the workshop and opened the door. All the while his eyes filled with tears of happiness. In front of him was a grey van with 2 red stripes on the sides, tinted windows, a small horse pendant inside, and graffiti on the sliding door with the words "Imp" in red and black. It looked a little worn, with dents in the hood leaving it halfway open. Some were already thinking her reaction was a bit exaggerated for a van like this, but BLITZO still drove over and hugged her warmly. SH, everything's okay now, everything's okay baby, daddy's here. Mua. He whispered reassuringly to the van and gave a kiss, but it reacted out of nowhere with its horn and lights. "Ah, it's good that you're safe, those morons with bad taste in clothes didn't touch you, did they?" he said, feeling her out, relieved that nothing had happened to her. "I'm really glad nothing had happened to you. Wait a minute. Sniffing something in the air, the demon pressed his nose against the car like a bloodhound searching for something. What is that? Crouching down next to the driver's door, he sharpened his gaze, noticing a tiny, microscopic, and almost imperceptible line on the paint. Did they scratch my car? He exclaimed furiously, looking away towards the place where the fight was heard, making his eyes burst into flames. Ah. 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 Izuku's tiredness became more and more noticeable between his sweaty face and rapid breathing, because as they continued fighting surrounded by the gang of demons, there was a point where his movements became slower with each dodge he made. At first, he had a bit of an advantage, defeating a few with kicks and his bouncing style to confuse them, but as the fight dragged on, 2 more replaced each demon he defeated. His powerless condition began to take its toll, draining his energy greatly, forcing him to go on the defensive, leaping all over the place. This isn't good. Izuku thought swiftly, dodging a demon's punch and sending it crashing into the trash with a kick, but soon more appeared behind him. Without my powers, now every movement I make tires me out faster. Ah. He dodged with difficulty 3 who threw their chains, starting to run around the place desperately. I can't keep up the pace like this any longer. Where are you, Blitz? Alerted by a scream behind him, one tried to charge at him with its entire body, so he jumped to slide down it and continued on his way, being immediately surprised by another throwing a pipe at him, but he jumped back to avoid it. Crick. NGH. Barely landing on the last move, Izuku felt his ankle buckle, losing his balance for a brief moment. Boom. Arg. That little discovery allowed one of the gang to connect a hook to the stomach that knocked all the wind out of him. Izuku in his human form is punched in the stomach in an office by a government agent in a suit and dark glasses with a rock fist. Then, between turns, 3 demons jumped in front of him, hitting him with their pipes all over his battered body, spitting saliva with the last blow, and sending him crashing into a pile of cars. A trio of similar agents in that same office delivered a sequence of 3 blows, each one charged with a strange energy, throwing his body against some desks that shattered upon impact, sending all their papers flying everywhere. The second after hitting the trash, several chains bound Izuku's wrists and neck, held by the 3 smirking demons, trying to free themselves with choking gestures. From the rubble of the desk, he was seen being held by his limbs and neck by the officers using metal ropes that pulled him taut. What's going on? What are all those images? Izuku thought choke trying to break free, but it was in vain when he saw how the entire gang around him shot at him and one by one, began to beat him mercilessly, leaving him no choice but to resist on the ground, trying to cover himself. Those men. That office. There I was with Lady Nagant to eliminate the target. But why am I remembering this now? What does it mean? Still being beaten, he debated inside, confused as to why he was seeing that right now. Ah. Suddenly, one of the gang hit his chest hard, pushing him towards the rest in slow motion. But hey. The young man opened his eyes upon seeing himself in the place of the demon who hit him, while the one being pushed by the blow was a shocked Lady Nagant, who was pulled through the glass in that same high-rise building, and a strong storm, while behind him a crowd of agents rushed against him. Now I remember. I remember everything. Being thrown to the ground by another demon, Izuku in the fetal position, tried to protect himself with his arms as best he could from the incessant punishment he was receiving from everyone at the same time, but it was useless. The rain of blows prevented him from even moving. He couldn't think of a plan or anything else that would help him get out of that situation. He was already at his limit, he was tired, he couldn't do anything. And he didn't even know if he cared about that. He was dead, he could never go home again. All the things he had done in his life, his dreams, his achievements, the people he had met, all of that was lost forever. So what would he do now? He had nowhere to go, he was alone, and his dream of being a hero was shattered. He had his hands stained with the blood of Shigaraki and corrupt public security. Maybe that was what sent him to hell, despite having been for saving people. This was the weight that Lady Nagant carried. And now she will suffer for her crimes. Stopping in their tracks, all the gang members raised their heads as they began to hear music approaching them. Where is that music coming from? Bang. Ah. They watched as one of their own, who was on top of Izuku, fell to the ground with a bullet wound in his chest. Bang bang bang. Repeating the same scene, 3 more above the young man were shot towards the ground to the surprise of the demons, allowing Izuku to raise his dirty and scratched face, with a small line of blood on his lip. What's going on? Everyone is fucking dead. From Rump. Driving over a ramp made of garbage, everyone present watched as a grey van driven by an armed BLITZO jumped towards them with one hand and steered with the other, blasting rock music on the radio. BLITZO irritated all the gang members with furious eyes. No one scratches my car and gets away with it, you fucking leather lovers. No one. Ah. He shouted at the top of his lungs, starting to shoot each of them as the car descended. Boom. Back on the ground with a momentary skid, BLITZO tossed a pistol out of the car and pulled out a machine gun instead, beginning to unload bullets as he approached them. Eat my lead, you stupid sons of bitches. Ah. The gunfire diverted the gang members, who fled for cover, allowing him to stop the car right in front of the young man, who was still frozen on the ground. What are you waiting for? Get in. BLITZO yelled at him to snap him out of his initial shock and get him into the vehicle through the middle door, restarting the engine and driving off, heading straight for the exit. Ah. Thanks. You came just in time. Izuku thanked between gestures of pain, sitting down in the seat while holding his shoulders while observing the vehicle. So. This is your car. That's right, isn't my baby beautiful? BLITZO asked playfully, playing with the horse ornament, eliciting a slight chuckle from the young man. He flipped the rearview mirror over to check on his condition. Ah, they really messed you up. It's nothing. He told her despite the dirt and scratches on his body from the multiple merciless attacks on his sack-like body. I've been through worse before. Well, it's time to say bye-bye to this dump of weirdos with bad fashion sense and mustaches. We're off. BLITZO stated, focusing back on the road and hitting the gas pedal as fast as he could, zooming past a gang member who was heading towards his gang. Don't let them escape. Block the entrance. Quickly grasping the order like ants, each of the demons belonging to the gang grabbed a wrecked car with difficulty and piled them up one by one on the road, blocking the only entrance and exit of the place with a 7-story wall of cars. Shit. BLITZO exclaimed, quickly turning the wheel and changing course in time to avoid crashing, causing the demons to laugh at his failure. Fuck you. He yelled at them, sticking his head out for a moment before getting back behind the wheel. Damn, those morons are blocking the exit, we're trapped like rats. He commented, annoyed, having to turn around again while they were chased all over the territory trying to stop them. Looking out the back window, Izuku fixed his gaze on the barricade of piles of cars and the demons that stood around him to block his way. He looked down at his legs, stepping on the foot he used to gently bend his ankle, letting out a groan and turning his gaze back to the block. I don't think we have many options, I should at least try. Izuku then opened the door of the vehicle while it was still moving, attracting the driver's attention. Hey, what are you doing? We need to clear the entrance, it's the only way out of the place. The young man indicated, ready to jump. Just turn around and drive there. I'll take care of everything. And without further ado, I jump out of the vehicle, landing in a somersault and running towards the barricade. Ah. Okay, the demon said confusedly, increasing his speed to turn around. With Izuku, he continued running his way towards the blockade, seeing that there were several waiting to stop him, so getting serious and ignoring the pain in his entire body, he increased his speed without intending to stop for anything, skidding between the legs of a demon who failed to hit him with a tube. He then threw his makeshift whips at a lamppost and swung over 3 men who tried to whip him with chains, continuing his run upon landing. A gang member twice the size of the rest stood blocking his path with a club ready to crush him, but he didn't even have time to breathe when the young man was seen propelling himself towards him in a jump, spinning at high speed and sending him flying to the side of the garbage with a powerful kick. In front of him was the path cleared of enemies, only the barricade of 3 rows of 7 compacted cars remained as the last obstacle to escape. Taking a leap of momentum towards the barricade, she stretched her leg back as far as she could and gritted her teeth with her face covered by her hair. She only had one chance. If I don't make it, I'm going to break my leg, he thought, hoping to achieve what he had in mind. Remembering those words All Might had said to him to manifest his quirk for the first time, he took a deep breath, tensing the muscles in his legs. Grip your butt tight. And scream from the bottom of your heart. Smai-osh. Pum. Picking the blockade with all his might, he sent the shattered remains of the enormous barrel of cars into the sky, leaving the exit clear, BLITZO with his mouth wide open, and the collectors with their eyes popping out of their sockets in a comical way, unable to believe what they had just seen. But the exit clear, Izuku fell back onto BLITZO's van that came up behind him, moving away from the play seconds before the remains of the barricade fell onto the warehouse in small fragments, and all the demons in the place sought refuge terrified from the rain of scrap metal that was slowly destroying the entire place. What a shame. The female figure with a long, wild hair and sensual proportions in her curvaceous hergless build was seen sitting on top of a building, looking with her single large eye at the dump that now lived up to its name as a garbage dump when the place had been left in disarray by the fall of all the scrap metal. And to think I came all the way from the Pentagon to be the first to cause mayhem at that new gang's base, and they beat me to it by kicking their asses right when I arrived. Well, at least it wasn't that boring. Having a light blush on her pale skin, she plastered on a suggestive smile. That strong, sexy, shirtless demon put on quite a show. At the depot, a small red devil crawled out of the folded bars, completely dirty, with torn clothes and a video camera in his hands with the initials 666 news on it. Shit. The little demon said, stunned, his hand on his chest between heavy breaths. I just came to do a spy report on the collectors as Katie had ordered for her exclusive. But I wouldn't have accepted if I had known that some demon would come to destroy the whole place. I didn't come for this. I got caught in the crossfire. I almost died. Again. He said, lying on the floor, shedding a sea of tears, happy to have been able to escape from that place. The only good thing about all this is that at least I won't come back empty-handed, otherwise Katie would poke my eyes out herself with her pen. I look at his camera, relieved that it's intact. Ha. That was amazing. BLITZO shouted excitedly, then stuck his head out of the window. Suck that, weirds. He then turned to Izuku who was sliding through the window to get into the driver's seat with clear signs of pain. NGHH. My foot hurts. But at least the boot prevented me from breaking any bones. It was close, the green-haired man commented, sighing in relief at his wounded animal foot that had completely exploded his footwear, leaving only a few bruises and scratches on it. Wait, didn't you even break your leg in the process? Blitz was stunned. Ojojoho, I'm speechless, he said smiling as he drove here, catch. Throwing something to him, Izuku caught it and then held it out. It was a black t-shirt, a dark green sweatshirt, some black pants and a pair of brown boots. Put that on, it's making me really uncomfortable seeing you half naked. Thanks. He accepted the clothes before going to the back and starting to put on the shirt that was tight on his body. Wow, it fits me just right. Where did you get something in my size? We see one of the gang members crying in Barbie underwear and hugging himself in the fetal position, while his other companions continued running from the garbage falling from the sky. He had discovered BLITZO with a car and tried to stop him, but caught him at the worst moment when the demon with rage-injected eyes threw him on his back after shooting him 3 times in the chest and stripped him naked before driving off in his car. You know what's funny about this? Well, he was the only one who didn't wear the same clothes as everyone else in the gang, and he had to be the only one who got mugged like that. I feel violated. I found it over there. He replied simply. Finishing his change of clothes, Izuku returned to the front seat where he looked out the window at the silent city landscape, his face beginning to show sadness as he watched the demons pass by on the street. Although the robbery problem was solved, he still had a lot to think about. He was dead and now he knew how it happened, because during the discovery where he was beaten in different ways, he had flashes of what the punishment he suffered because of the public security guards was. Having sacrificed himself for Lady Nagant. He'd pushed her out of the window high in the building so they wouldn't catch her, having fallen into a trap with false information. His hero instinct reminded him of everything she'd been through, and as if his body reacted on its own, he pulled her out of the way to take her place in distracting them, but apparently ended up giving his life to save hers. He let out a long tired sigh. There was no need to think about how he died. It was already clear that they had silenced him for following an ex-heroine who had seen his hidden face. They had probably done the same thing with his death as they had done with Lady Nagant's boss, saying that a villain was responsible and that he had died protecting them. That was the truth. BLITZO looked away seeing his depressed expression, so he tried to start a conversation. Suo. You just died and you don't know what to do, right? He asked out of nowhere looking back to the front, surprising the green-haired man. How do you? Oh, come on kid, do you think I wouldn't know you're new here? You literally asked me a while ago if this was hell. I clarify, deadpanning. Besides, you stink up the living world. Well. Yeah. I guess so. He looked back down. Waking up out of nowhere in this place left me very stunned. It left me thinking a lot of things about what I will do now. You know, I normally don't give a shit about the lives of humans who die and come here, but I'll give you a piece of advice since I like you, and you helped me get my car back. BLITZO looked at the road. Forget about your past life. Hey. You're already dead, so just get over it and get used to this new afterlife, next incarnation or whatever, I don't know, I never said this kind of philosophical garbage to make someone feel good. I'm only telling you this because you helped me. The demon said, scratching the back of his neck without looking at him. But anyway, leaving that aside, how did you die? He put on an anxious smile. 3rd-degree murder. Drug trafficking. Mass rape and then a death sentence. This is the most common one for teenagers today. He asked her as if it were a normal topic to talk about, taking a drop out of the back of his neck, but he still decided to answer. I killed a murderer and several corrupt politicians. Ha. Amazing. I exclaimed excitedly between the bounces like a child full of sugar, ignoring the green-haired boy's stunned expression, who didn't know what to say to that reaction, so I passed it off as something normal and now seriously, I have no doubt that you'll be perfect for the job. That last thing caught Izuku's attention, putting a question mark on the work. Heh, just like you said, you're a newcomer to hell, right? Izuku nodded in the affirmative. Are you lost and have nowhere else to go? He nodded again. Don't you have a purpose driving you to do something with your pathetic, miserable, immortal existence? Izuku showed a poker face with a few beads of sweat, but nodded again. What exactly are you getting at? The young man asked, somewhat impatient at being reminded of his problems. Well, how about you work as a bodyguard for my company? BLITZO offered the young man. You're pretty strong, it would be helpful to have some muscle around in case any weirdos show up around here again. I won't give you an instant paycheck, but you'll have your own room in the building and a job at the same time, so I'll be solving two of your problems, not bad, huh? Izuku thought about it for a moment. And saw that what he was offering actually didn't sound bad at all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. It was clear that whatever company a demon ran in hell would obviously involve sinner committing crimes, there was no doubt about it. But considering what BLITZO told him, he was right about something, and that was that he no longer belonged in the world of the living, despite having retained his demeanor. Now he was in a pretty weird hell, and would have to adapt to a new lifestyle without powers as a reason for a demon in hell. Seriously, everything that's happening to him is practically ridiculous, the Bible lies to you, nothing prepares you for this. Sigh, okay. Not that I have much of a choice right now, but I'll accept your job offer. Mainly because hell is way more different than I thought. Izuku agreed, shaking hands with the smiling BLITZO, happy that he accepted. So, if I'm going to be a bodyguard, what kind of company will I be working for? I asked innocently, wanting to know that detail. Poor thing, he must have asked that before accepting is what you all probably just thought, don't deny it. Haha. The demon laughed lightly before taking out his phone and giving it to Izuku, why not, I'll show you. With a musical. He declared with an excited smile, clicking play on the video that was playing. 3, 2, 1. On stage in front of open purple curtains, BLITZO glided into view. Hi, I'm Blitz. The O is silent and I'm the founder of Imp. He held out his hand and the logo appeared above him. Are you a piece of shit who went straight to hell? A picture of BLITZO with a mustache and two black top hats on his horns smirked evilly while an orphanage for blind children burned in the background. Or are you an innocent soul who was fucked by someone else? The next image showed BLITZO in a bad angel costume, happily throwing a styrofoam coffee cup into a trash can instead of a recycling bin at an office. In the next shot, off camera, a hand held a sign that read "Guy hired us." Next to a large red demon with buckskin horns wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. After lovingly killing my wife for fucking the fucking delivery guy, can you believe my surprise when I ended up here after the state of Ohio executed me? I really wish I could kill the asshole who saw me hiding the body and the evidence. BLITZO appeared again, this time with his companions Millie and Moxie in the background, performing a satanic ritual with white candles scattered around the room. The two imps were sitting in front of a pentagram drawn on the floor, while BLITZO held a blue book in his hand. Well, luckily for you, thanks to our company's special access to the world of the living. He waved his hand, and a flaming portal appeared in the center of the room, prompting Moxie and Millie to jump inside. We can help you take care of your unfinished business by eliminating anyone who messed with you when you were alive. He happily fell backward through the portal. If anyone wants to massacre someone, they should call us without thinking. We are professional killers. We can exploit them or disguise suicide. We are professional killers. Guaranteed this. Well, it's a hell of a service. We're going to stab your partner. We are murderers, professionals. Boom. The song stopped when Moxie ended up shooting a child by mistake, leaving the three demons frozen behind the bushes and Moxie on the verge of collapse. Children die for free. With his face whiter than flour, Izuku stared at his phone screen after finishing the commercial for BLITZO's supposed company and realized who he had agreed to work with. Well, did you like it? Nah, you don't have to say it. It was an excellent musical commercial. The demon declared proudly. Why your company? It's about murdering living people. I asked the young man, still with a twitch in his expression. That's right. Great, isn't it? BLITZO said with a smile waiting for her answer. I don't think I'm cut out for this job. He said, still frozen. You killed corrupt politicians who spread lies to the masses. Of course you're made for the job. The devil insisted. Come on, don't judge until you see it for yourself. Even if he's somewhat right, I'm not sure I'd say it if he knew what I did was because he was a hero. He was. He thought, letting out a sigh, remembering that now that word no longer has much meaning for him, after all, he was a hero influenced by that image that the government put The only good thing he has in his memories now were the moments with All Might, and he remembered him as the only real hero. Working in hell still seemed like the most ridiculous thing straight out of a toy Bible, but here they have a somewhat similar system in the land of the living, so he even considered accepting Blitz's proposal without hesitation. He hadn't thought that everything that had happened during the last year of his life would affect him in death enough to consider working for murderers. Damn, this was really wrong. Maybe he had no choice but to resign himself to accepting the job once and for all, because when he felt the pain of the fight and the hunger from the energy drain during the drive, he remembered that he was a stranger from the place with no knowledge or resources to survive. Or whatever the word is in hell, and you know what? It's better to stop questioning this. It really is a pain in the ass trying to make sense of these things right now. Okay, we're here. Izuku saw that they stopped in a parking lot in front of a small building with several offices, having across the street a huge billboard with BLITZO promoting his business and pointing where it was company, sweet company. Oh, it looks very normal, Izuku commented, getting out of the car. Honestly, he was expecting a whole macabre villain's lair with knives, chains and boilers everywhere due to the aforementioned job. Hey, don't judge a book by its cover, this is the best place ever. She smiled as she closed the door and took a deep breath. Ah. I love the smell of strays in the morning. They both started walking towards the building, watching as they passed through the hallways between several similar-looking offices along the way. Are all these offices part of the company? The young man asked. No, we only have one. The company is a bit broke. But you'll see, eventually we'll have enough to buy the whole building. Blitz told him, excited about future plans. I'll put a jacuzzi in that space, a small theater in that one. Oh. And I'm going to expand that place and put in a horse stable. Horses. Izuku was confused by that last thought and was going to ask about it, but they stopped in front of a door with the imp carving on it. Wait here a moment, I have something to do before you meet the rest. BLITZO said, opening the door and sounding a loud bugle. Staff meeting. Now. He shouted loudly before entering the office. The young man with some nervous sweating, a nervous twitch in his eye and his ears twitching from the enormous sensitivity he now possessed. Why do I feel like I'm going to regret all of this? Once inside, we see BLITZO in the conference room with a whiteboard scribbled behind him and his employees sitting in their places, although in Luna's case, it was putting their feet up on the conference table. Okay guys. I called you to this meeting to make an important announcement, he said enthusiastically with jazz hands, but except for the smiling Millie, Moxie saw him bored for being used to his eccentricities and Luna without taking her eyes off her device. What's this about, boss? Oh. Is this about my request to adopt a company pet? Is that it? Millie asked, a sparkle of excitement in her eyes. A week ago, she had put a letter in the suggestion box to have a cute little animal in the place. She thought it was an adorable idea. Pet application. Blitz said, puzzled, having a flashback of himself with a goofy grin and his tongue hanging out as he casually threw the suggestion box into the garbage disposal, sending the whole thing into the sky like confetti. Nope, I don't remember anything about that. Oh. I see. The girl's spirits dropped and she began to circle the table with her finger. Moxie rolled her eyes with a tired sigh. Is this another one of your complicated schemes to improve business, sir? Wow, Moxie, you didn't even try hard. But I didn't expect you to either. Blitz said in a disappointed monotone, causing the worker to frown. And you're loony. What do you think this is about? Huh? Do you have any ideas, my baby? He asked as if he were talking to a baby, earning the wolf a growl. No, and I don't care. Blitz, she replied angrily, still immersed in her phone. Okay, Luna. Thanks for your lovely opinion. The demon happily thanked before slamming both hands on the work table. Okay, I've gathered you all together to meet. Drumroll. Imp's newest employee. Tadian. Blitz exclaimed, pointing at the door as a spectacle. But frowned when he saw that nothing was happening. New employee. The three employees exclaimed in surprise, not expecting this news. Even Luna looked up from her phone in surprise. I said. The new imp employee. Tadian. He said again, performing the same action, looking annoyed at seeing that nothing was happening again. What the hell is he doing? A new employee, that's exciting. Millie said with a smile, clapping her hands at the idea. Wow, wait a minute, sir. Moxie stopped his boss, being completely confused. What do you mean, new employee? We already have too many problems in the company to accept anyone else. What do you intend to do with that madness? For once I agree with the sissy in the ridiculous suit. Luna added, returning to her phone, disinterested. Hey. I'm not effeminate. And just so you know, this suit is all the rage on the other side of town. The aforementioned man exclaimed indignantly, trying to sound elegant. Yeah, whatever you say. It's already a nuisance with everything we have on top of us. I don't want to be putting up with another possible Moxie in the office." He declared this with a mocking smile with clear provocation. "Grrr. That fucker." Moxie growled, clenching her fist as she swallowed her nerves. "What made you hire someone else, sir?" The little devil asked, interested, as she watched her boss repeatedly perform the introductory motion toward the door without anything happening. "Well, a lot of things happened regarding some weirdos in black leather and super stereotypical smoko mustaches, and he helped me solve those problems in an epic way, so I decided to hire him as the company's new bodyguard. Grrr. Blitz explained vaguely and began to get irritated as he continued to point at the door like a spectacle without anything happening. "What the fuck are you doing, Izuku? That's your cue to dramatically appear through the doorframe," he shouted, exasperated by the lack of commitment and wanting to give a masterful presentation. What signal? I don't understand," the green-haired man said confusedly outside the office. "But what are you?" "Oh right, I didn't tell him." The demon slapped his face when he realized he didn't give him that signal he talked so much about. "Damn, and I wanted to make a Shakespeare-worthy presentation in front of my employees." Sigh, whatever, come in now, the moment is lost. "I didn't understand anything," Izuku muttered with a drop on his neck, opening the door and entering the office somewhat nervously. Excuse me. Okay, leaving aside the initial introduction fiasco," Blitz said with a frown, "I'd like to introduce you to the newest member of this family." "Bunny!" Millie exclaimed out of nowhere with shining eyes and tackled poor Izuku at high speed before the expectant gaze of everyone, watching how the girl caressed and rubbed her cheek against his fur like an imperative girl full of sugar, making the young man blush violently at feeling all that touching. "So I didn't forget, boss. Thank you very much for making my request come true. I love it." "Okay. That's unexpected," Luna said, raising her head in confusion. "Not for me, Millie comes from a farm. When it comes to animals, she jumps right in." Moxie commented on this fact about his wife. "Millie, I seriously have no idea what you're talking about, but stop pestering your new partner so we can start this fucking work meeting already," Blitz told her, crossing his arms because of the interrupted verse. "Huh? Partner?" The girl stopped rubbing herself against him and showed the young man's flushed face beneath her. "Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. A demon just apologized to me," Izuku thought, returning to his normal state in the face of another new abnormality from hell. Don't worry, it's no problem, he said as he stood up. "Are you done? We're running out of daylight," Blitz said irritably, pointing at his watch. "Sorry, boss." Millie apologized, getting off Izuku and calmly returning to her seat while the young man got up from the floor, shaking the dust off his clothes. "So, is this the new employee you were telling us about?" Luna asked, resting her head on her hand without much interest, seeing that he was nothing more than a teenager almost her same age. "That's right," Blitz stated with a smile and both fists on his hips. "Meet the company's new bodyguard, Izuku." Hello." Izuku waved with a nervous smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you." "Hey Izuku." Millie greeted with a smile and waved her arm. Hello." Moxie returned the greeting, unsure, until she realized an important detail. "Wait a minute, is he a bodyguard? Why did you decide to hire a kid, Blitz? Especially to be a bodyguard?" Luna asked, leaning back in her seat. I'm 18. Izuku wanted to emphasize that point. "Arg, don't tell me he's done one of his ridiculous, eccentric schemes again to revive the company?" Moxie asked, already thinking it was another one of those schemes he claimed would be successful, but it turned out to be just the opposite. "Hey, there's nothing eccentric about what I do," the demon declared, receiving his back highly offended by that accusation without seeing the really face from Moxie and Luna, Millie being out of it with a calm smile. "Besides, it wasn't a decision I made on the spot, you see. And finally, when we got rid of these idiots in a garbage explosion, we drove straight to the company like the big winning faggot ass wrecking people we are." He finished his enthusiastic story. "Woo, what a story," Millie marveled, clapping her hands. Yeah, that all sounds very action movie-y and all, but you just told us every possible detail, except for the reason for accepting a complete stranger just like that," Moxie mentioned monotonously, due to the lack of that key detail in her question. "Oh, well. I don't really have one," Blitz added. "Huh?" The imp raised his eyebrow. Blitz just shrugged his shoulders unconcerned. "The truth is I don't have any. I only offered him a job for helping me get my precious four-wheeled baby back," he said, lovingly caressing a photo of himself hugging the truck with affection. Moxie was expressionless about it. "I see you don't have a real answer for this, so I won't pay much attention to that last firmness." He turned to Izuku with a friendly smile. "Well, whatever, welcome in Imp Izuku." It took Izuku a few seconds to react. He was still processing this strange hell with its inhabitants and their peculiar reactions to each other. Oh thanks. Moxie, he thanked the demon, smiling back. Then he turned to the wolf who was looking at them disinterestedly. This made him nervous and he tried to relax a little by trying to talk to her, but… LOONA looked away, tossing her hair in disinterest. That brought a drop of sweat to his neck. I guess he'll put off interacting with his new coworkers for later. Alright, introduction's over. Blitz placed both hands on the table, drawing everyone's attention. I know the company's had its ups and downs these days, but I don't blame anyone. Moxie. The aforementioned raised his eyebrows, puzzled as to why, but was completely ignored as BLITZO continued. Does anyone have any bright ideas on how we can get the business growing again? Millie waved her hand and smiled with bright eyes. What about a car wash? This is hell, Millie. Nobody gives a shit about clean cars, okay? He told his boss expressionlessly. In fact, now that we're talking about it, we have to discuss one of the clear reasons that's ruining the job. Moxie said, giving her opinion on the matter. LOONA being our secretary is a big problem. She doesn't take anything seriously about her part, and on top of that, she's terrible at her job. Moxie said, giving her opinion on the matter. Sit on a dick, Moxie. LOONA said, disinterested, texting on her phone. No. You sit on a… Ugh. Do your job. The imp isn't sure what to answer. Hey, don't bring LOONA into this. Blitz intervened, going to caress his cheek against the wolf's, who seemed to want to tear his face off at any moment due to the proximity. She hasn't done anything wrong. Moxie had a WTF expression on his face. Are you serious? She's terrible, in fact. It was because of her that I ended up shooting that kid from the commercial. He exclaimed in annoyance before holding his face in pure horror. I still can't get that image out of my head. Shooting an innocent child. Well, instead, Izuku watched in surprise at that scene, a demon disturbed by killing a child. It seemed that every second that passed he continued to be surprised by everything. Why, you shouldn't blame yourself for that. Izuku said, attracting the devil's attention. It was an accident, you didn't mean to do that to yourself, so don't think about it too much. Wow, I hadn't thought of it like that. Moxie smiled, feeling a weight lifted. It seems that those words calmed him down. He really needed it. Thanks. He said gratefully to Izuku, who simply smiled back, saying that it was nothing. There was still something of a hero inside him, and he believed that it was necessary to give him those words of support. Yeah, are you done with the drama? Blitz asked, arms crossed. Come on, we need something to get us going right now. BLITZO paused for a moment in deep thought until he suddenly shouted. Oh, I know. He waved his hands excitedly, his eyes sparkling. How about a new billboard? Blitz, don't they have that anymore? The green-haired man asked, confused, pointing out the window at the unmistakable colossal sign on the building across the street with the image of his new boss, smiling with 2 thumbs up and his work logo. I mean a bigger one. He replied simply. Moxie crossed his arms. We can't afford another ad like that, sir, especially with the small budget we have left. Helpful Moxie, I'm really glad you're in the room right now, her boss replied sarcastically, tilting his gaze before getting up and going to the center of the room. We need fresh ideas. Have you already forgotten the service we're giving? He asked skeptically, taking a remote control and turning on the living room TV with its live commercial killing people. Those were the good times. I still haven't processed that commercial well. Izuku said heavily without looking at the screen. Just because he killed to save others didn't mean he was comfortable with watching that material. As Millie munched from a bucket of popcorn, Moxie droned on. I don't need you to remind me, sir, considering you wasted most of our revenue on a disgusting TV commercial last week. One that you then paid extra to run for 3 full hours on a channel no one watches. Really? Izuku, amazed by that information, received a nod from Moxie. Blitz turned to look at him, looking insulted. Oh. Excuse me. What's so off-putting about a super fun music commercial? It's a fun distraction, unlike those ads that spew out pointless crap. He said, crossing the room as he clarified his point. People love musicals, sir. Millie added in agreement with her boss. BLITZO smiled. Exactly, Millie. We basically made the musical. BLITZO did jazz hands before quickly pointing at Moxie with a frown. Are you going to crush my theater dreams like my dad did? He said with anguish in his voice in a dramatic manner. Sir. Moxie began, but his boss interrupted him. Because right now, all I see is my stupid father judging me and crushing my dreams of being who I really am inside. She continued her monologue, sadly hanging her head. Millie leaned towards her husband and spoke in a mocking tone. Are you trying to crush his dreams, Moxie? What? Millie came closer and stuck out her tongue with her tail curled up. I thought I knew you well. Moxie blushed with a shiver and rolled his eyes. His wife loved to tease him. BLITZO turned to Moxie with tears in his eyes. I can't believe that of you, Moxie, and after making you my employee of the month. He then distraughtly pulled out a badly taken framed photo of Moxie. Alright sir. That's enough. Sorry, but that commercial is far from being comparable to a musical theater. No one likes melodic advertising. I like them. Millie and Izuku said, raising their hands, the latter having been in one while still alive. Moxie turned to his wife pointing at her with a twitch in his eye. Honey. Disagree with him in front of me. Then he turned to Izuku, and you better not support him too much, otherwise bad things will happen. Take this as a piece of advice from my own experience if you want to survive in this job with a boss like him. Hey. Don't brainwash the newest member of this family with lies. Blitz exclaimed, possessively hugging Izuku, bumping his cheeks, which he puffed out indignantly. Huh? Family? Izuku asked, still being hugged. For the last time, we're not a family sir. Moxie said angrily. You're the boss and we're your employees. And you're just using that as an excuse for Loona, treating her like she's a troubled teenager. She's nothing more than a streetwise addict who leaves her phone to serve our customers horribly. Hey. That's offensive. BLITZO said, walking over to the window and opening the blinds. Without the strays, we wouldn't have half the joy and laughter I have in this life. He said, amused, looking at the landscape of squalor and homelessness below him. Moxie crossed her arms. And since we're on the subject of family, can you please leave Millie and me alone outside of work? Oh come on honey, it's no big deal. Millie said easily. Excuse me. What? Her husband's eyes widened. He was hiding in our fucking fridge. While at night, he was spying on me while I slept. And the worst thing is, he was filming us while we singed you during our romantic moment. And I still have it on camera. Do you want to see? Blitz whispered smiling between Izuku and Loona. It's okay, honey. Millie replied, patting Moxie on her shoulder. That was a fun use of the pun BLITZO used when he warned us about the expired butter. Don't stress. Why was it in our fridge anyway? Moxie asked. I was just curious how you were at home. He replied, shrugging his shoulders nonchalantly. Just. Stop. Doing that. Moxie growled, restraining himself from continuing this argument. I don't see what the problem is. BLITZO said, looking away. Or is there something you don't want me to see? A mischievous goofy look crossed his face. No. Moxie spat, rolling his eyes. You have a small one, don't you? The boss said, making Loona chuckle. Sir, what you're saying and how you're acting is totally inappropriate. Moxie exclaimed, fed up, while pointing at him accusingly. Millie tugged at him gently. Calm down, Mox, you're going to have another panic attack. I'm calm. Millie rubbed his head and calmed him down. SHH, 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 now. Moxie whined like a pitiful dog. Look, I don't judge the boring couple things you do outside of work hours, so don't judge me. The demon added, unaffected by her words. Veins popped out in Moxie's yellow eyes. Oh, I judge you sir. A lot, indeed. Mox, he's our boss. His wife exclaimed at the outburst. No, it's okay Mills. BLITZO said, smiling nonchalantly with a wave of his hand. Your husband is just. How can I say this without being offensive? Retarded. Does insulting me in an immature way make you feel better about your sad life? BLITZO leaned towards Moxie smiling. Yep, that's right. The only reason you have a wife is because you're easy to manipulate. Loona said, joining the conversation without taking her eyes off her phone. No, it isn't, bitch. Millie yelled in annoyance, raising two middle fingers at the wolf's growls at being called that. Don't talk to my assistant like that. BLITZO demanded, hugging her head protectively. She's sensitive. Yes I am. Loona barked angrily, standing up from her seat and ready to launch into a fight. While all this was happening, Izuku was sitting in his seat sweating profusely with a nervous expression trying to understand everything that was happening. This was literally a disaster. He had no idea that a group of demons who run a company were arguing like this, and not only that, but every discussion that was brought to the table seemed like one bizarre situation after another, because with the minutes he had been here, he had already gotten a clear idea of each of the members, each one completely different in every aspect. I think Mori and I were reincarnated in the most bizarre place that has ever existed. Izuku thought with a drop on his neck watching them continue with their discussion and forgetting about his existence. He really still believed that this was a bad dream and was about to wake up at any moment to discover that all this was nothing more than a nightmare. Sigh, well. At least they stopped the surprises for a moment, my heart couldn't hold back another one anymore. He murmured relieved that the surprises from hell had finally stopped for his heart. You are all fucking stupid people. Clutching his chest with a pained expression, Izuku fell to the ground in shock at the sudden scream behind him. F. For the heart of our hero. What's wrong with you now, Izuku? BLITZO pulled away from the discussion with his employees as he watched a young man shakily get up from the floor, leaning on the table. Sorry. I suddenly heard a strange scream in my head and fell to the floor. He replied, still with a frozen expression and a hand on his chest. I think I'm not up for any more surprises today. I'm too exhausted. In your head. The demon had a question mark in his head before snapping his fingers. Oh, you mean the boy behind you. Turning his head robotically, Izuku was excited to see a chubby boy with a furrowed brow and dried blood on his shirt. Hey boy. What's a boy doing here? He asked excitedly with a hand on his chest in order to appease a heart attack. Or whatever happens to you here. Oh, he's the kid from our fun musical. BLITZO replied happily. That wasn't fun, sir. Moxie said through gritted teeth, looking at his boss who seemed to have not understood that the mission was a fiasco. The kid from the commercial. Izuku exclaimed, upset, wanting to know what exactly that kid in hell who was supposed to have been killed was doing here. But what's he doing here? He looks very… alive. Well, there were certain mishaps in the world of the living, he said in quotes, something unimportant about something called insurance, but since I have no idea what it is, we brought the child who was apparently still alive to see what we would do with him since he wasn't the target. How can someone still be alive after being shot at point blank range? Izuku felt himself collapsing, searching for answers. I wonder whose fault it was in the first place. Moxie rolled her eyes sarcastically. I don't give a damn about your opinion, you cheap-suited sissy. LOONA replied with a smirk. Don't be effeminate. She yelled angrily at Millie, facing the wolf again, showing her fangs. And this suit makes him look sexier than those tattered rags you're wearing, you bitch in heat. And so, once again the grunts and insults arose between the two girls and Moxie defending his masculinity, while BLITZO for some reason talked about something about the theater and the family goal he so wanted to achieve. Gosh, how can they fight like this again? They just did it. The young man muttered, letting out another sigh of tiredness before reaching out to the boy. He was surely scared and completely stunned by everything that happened. Hello little one. Izuku addressed the boy on the stretcher and spoke to him calmly so as not to upset him with his demonic appearance. I know this is very confusing and maybe you're scared because of everything around you. But trust me, there's nothing to be afraid of. Shut your mouth you damn horned rabbit. The boy declared with annoyance, surprising Izuku with that sudden outburst. He didn't expect it. Oh, shut up kid, you're lucky to be alive, so do me a favor and shut up. BLITZO said somewhat irritated. Moxie pinched the bridge of her nose and sighed in frustration. Ugh, this company is a mess. Alright, let's get back to talking about my outfit. BLITZO exclaimed, smiling. Nobody was talking about it. LOONA added. So let's get to it. How do I look in this tie? Very good, right? He wanted to know, not caring about being serious, but he was interrupted when the boy pointed at him accusingly. It's been literal hell pretending to be dead so you fuckers wouldn't kill me. But I'm tired of it. I want to die so I don't have to watch this damn mess anymore. The boy admitted tiredly. You. He said to BLITZO. You're a selfish clumsy clown. And I'm a boy. I'm supposed to like clowns. Even the dumb ones. See clown. BLITZO had a nervous twitch in his eye upon hearing that word. Moxie didn't take that insult to her boss very well. Hey, that's not very. The boy interrupted him by pointing at him more intensely. If I wanted to know the opinion of a dumb, stupid goat, I'd ask you right away. Moxie shuddered in fear. Hey. That's my husband you're talking to. Millie yelled in offense, but the guy snickered. Is that your husband? The mockery was evident in her smile. I realized from the beginning that he was a bitch. But I didn't know how needy you were to have to be with someone as ugly and weak-willed as him. The vein in Millie's forehead began to bulge when she saw that not only did he insult her husband, but he also thought she was a loose cannon who had sex with anyone. You. The boy said to LOONA. What? What about me? LOONA asked boredly. The boy crossed his arms. Nothing, I don't talk to dogs. I prefer cats, they're more polite and clean. He replied with a mocking smile, causing the wolf to twitch. And as for you. Finally he pointed at Izuku who was looking at him in amazement at everything he had just said. You've barely said a few words, and I already realize that you are completely insecure about everything around you. You're supposed to be a demon. You're in hell. Why are you acting like a little girl who gets scared by a simple boy's voice? Huh. Izuku opened his eyes wide, well. He was speechless, to be honest. I didn't expect a simple child to say all those strong rude things. Sure, he had been shot by demons and brought to hell, but as physically impossible as that was, he was still alive, and everything he said was completely inappropriate for someone his age, even bordering on the unacceptable when he called Millie, who seemed to be the kindest and most enthusiastic demon in all of hell, that name. Wow. BLITZO said in amazement, you're a piece of shit, kid. Yeah, a big piece of shit. Moxie contributed, just like her boss. I don't know what to say about that. Izuku admitted with bewilderment to the boy, why did you say all that? You don't look older than 8. You're not supposed to say such strong things. The truth is, he barely met them a few minutes ago, and they are demons from the same hell whom he insulted, but despite his life as a hero being crushed, he couldn't help but defend others when necessary. What? They shot me and took me to hell for no reason. The infant made his point with a sneer of contempt. I can say whatever I want about anyone. No one will tell me what I can or can't do. No one. And that's not your problem, you damn demon. He didn't know what to think about it anymore. On one hand there was the little morality, he still had to understand the child's anger towards those demons who did this to him by accident. But on the other hand, that moral compass that he didn't know where to point after witnessing that they weren't just demons, but a group that, although it didn't seem like it, was quite united. These hours as a demon made him realize that his life would never be the same. Wanting to solve the problem, Izuku had to make the boy see reason, so that he would apologize for everything he said, and thus try to find a way to get back to the world of the living, but suddenly the bell on Luna's phone rang, causing the aforementioned to smile. Hey, listen to this, I just got a message from our client, looks like he was the right target after all. BLITZO. Him. Luna. Yes. The boy. Me. Luna. Yes. Huh. You wanted them to kill a child? Izuku asked, disturbed. That's what the last client who hired us said. Luna emphasized without wiping her smile as she showed them the order on her phone. BLITZO plastered on a smile. Well, who would have thought? I guess there is a god after all. He then pulled out his gun and shot the boy in the chest, causing him to fall dead to the ground in front of Izuku's shocked face, releasing a sigh of satisfaction. Finally. A few seconds later, she saw the young man fall to the ground, unconscious, his face blank. Arg, great, just what I needed. Moxie, come and help me with this. My head. Izuku murmured, lying on a chair, putting a hand on his forehead, instantly feeling the touch of the green fur of his hands that he watched carefully, bringing him back to reality with melancholy. So this really isn't a dream. Sigh, hello, sleeping beauty. Izuku fell to the ground in exultation when BLITZO's face appeared out of nowhere in front of his. Why is everything happening to me today, giving me a heart attack? He yelled fruitfully as he slowly got up. You'll get used to it, rookie, and you better do it quickly. BLITZO explained, mockingly crossing his arms. What happened while I was unconscious? The young man asked, disoriented after fainting. Not much really. He replied simply. Izuku looked everywhere, and the kid? Where is he? Well, let's say he returned in one piece to his family in the world of the living, said the smiling Blitz, hiding a malicious smile inside. That's a bad metaphor. Sigh, I know what happened to the kid. And I don't even know why it doesn't affect me that much. Izuku settled on the couch, his gaze lost in the wet ceiling of the office. Blitz. Can I tell you something? Yeah, sure, as long as it's not sexual in origin or anything like that, that's it. That's my limit. Blitz said, unconcerned about listening to him. Taking a deep breath, Izuku confessed the truth that he had indeed committed murder, but it was only to bring justice and save people like the hero he was before he died. That's the truth. I'm not a bloodthirsty man who killed for pleasure, I'm just a vigilante who couldn't find anything else to do other than kill. He finished telling her calmly with his eyes closed. He felt better having gotten it out of his system. That's why I don't think I'll be good enough for the job. You know, I actually don't give a shit if you were a hero or a villain when you were still alive, BLITZO said, not caring about that, and I also don't give a damn about your opinion. When I make a decision, I don't back down for anything. He hooked him with his arm around his neck with a goofy smile and eyes shining with small tears. Today you are officially the new Imp bodyguard. Sniff, now you are part of this wonderful family. Izuku had a distraught expression even though he was held by the demon. Did he not hear him correctly, or did he ignore everything I said? Okay, Izuku won't complete that sentence, he already knows the answer. Besides, if this somehow serves to calm the little conscience you have left, that child did deserve to die. The demon commented with a calm smile. What do you mean? I asked, confused. Now that the client did send the correct information. Something that I'm going to charge him extra for later. That brat was a heartless man who tortured animals for fun, and it turns out that the one who placed the order had a pet that was a victim. Izuku was impressed and horrified by that detail. We are an assassination company, but we don't accept an order if the target doesn't deserve it. Unless they pay well, he said the last thing in a low voice, looking away. Well, normally by now I'd spend a narrative verse of Izuku questioning his existence and Blitz's morality. But this time there was nothing he wanted to question. Izuku had to understand that now he could no longer go back, everything he was or did no longer matters, he was in hell for his sins, he became a demon, and now he had to continue with his immortal existence, because at least working for BLITZO, he will do the same thing he did before dying, so he did not hesitate any longer. Geez, Izuku Midoriya ignoring the murder of a child. This hellhole did it again. Okay. If that's what you say. Izuku showed him a small smile, then I'll stop hesitating, I accept the job, he replied, making BLITZO smile with happiness for the new member of the family. Crash. Just then, a rock flew out of an office window, shattering the glass in front of them both. What the fuck? My window. BLITZO angrily looked out the broken window. Who was the bastard who broke my window? Clown. Urg, don't fuck with me, not this weirdo again. The demon said tiredly when he saw those responsible. We stand outside the entrance of the building where Moxie, Millie and Luna have in front of them about 50 leather-clad demons covered in bandages and wounds, each holding chains or iron pipes in their hands, all looking at them menacingly. So who are you supposed to be? Moxie asked with a raised eyebrow. We are the collectors. Owners and lords of the entire western territory of Imp City. Ibod said seriously with half of his face bandaged and the rest of his gang shouting behind him. We know BLITZO is hiding here, tell him we came to play with him, right brother Boyd? He asked smiling sinisterly to his brother next to him in the same conditions. That's right, brother Ibod. Boyd replied, cracking his fists with the same smile as his brother. He better go out on his own before we do it for him, haha. Are you here for the boss? Millie said innocently. Why am I not surprised? Luna said in a bored manner with a hand on her hip. BLITZO sped onto the scene and stood in front of the angry gang. Don't you have anything else to do besides ruin my day? He points at them angrily. You're going to pay for that $6,000 window you just broke. Didn't you find that spare part in a dumpster? Moxie asked aloud. Luna shrugged, not caring. Shut up, clown. Ibod pulled out a knife with all his companions ready behind him. Let's continue what we agreed on a while ago, and then we'll look for that big-eared guy who dared to hurt me and my brothers. Am I right? Ah. The gang yelled loudly in response. The Imp employees let out a sigh, and each took out their weapons, claws in Luna's case, and prepared for the occasional trouble again from their boss. But they were all surprised when BLITZO started laughing out of nowhere. Boyd and Ivod looked at each other, waiting for an answer to what happened, both shrugging their shoulders in confusion. Hahaha, I can't believe it, it can't be a better time like this. The demon said, addressing his employees who didn't understand. Hey Izuku, come here. BLITZO called smiling to the building. What's wrong? Izuku said as he stepped out of the entrance at his boss's call, immediately noticing the pickers who started to tremble when they saw him. Wua. All the gang members were excited when that boy saw them, recording the beating and monster strength that he showed alone against more than 52 of them. What is he doing here? One of the crowd shouted in terror. Oh, you mean our new bodyguard? BLITZO declared smiling from behind Izuku. Be bodyguard. The collectors took a few steps back, scared of reliving the pain they went through because of that demon. Don't you dare back down, fags. Ivod yelled at them before giving the green-haired boy a furious glare. We'll deal with the clown later. First let's finish the brat who dared attack us on our territory. With those words, he launched himself at Izuku with his brother and the rest of the gang following him in a war cry for revenge. The employees raised their weapons ready to attack, but their boss said they did nothing, addressing Izuku. Okay, Izuku. This is your first job as an official Imp bodyguard. Finish what we started today. Cracking his neck, Izuku displayed his fighting stance, looking down at the 52 gang members charging at him, bloodthirsty. Half a minute later. Wow. Luna said imprecisely along with Moxie and Millie, seeing all the collectors moaning in pain on the ground like garbage around Izuku who found himself cross-legged without a scratch, resting a bit from fighting against all of them. He is really strong. And he doesn't look it at all. Moxie said, still not getting over the shock. Is he really going to be our bodyguard? Millie asked excitedly. Ha ha ha. Suck on those moments. BLITZO mocked, hitting Izuku's chest with his hand. That'll teach them not to mess with me and my things, now that we have Izuku. He quickly approached Boyd and Ibod's bodies and put his hands in their pants, taking out their wallets, looking at their contents with eyes shining with money. This is through my window, idiots. Hey Blitz, do you think I can order some things for work later? Izuku said, looking at the rope made of his clothes in his hand. That way I can be more practical. Just then, he caught one of the wallets that BLITZO threw at him smiling. That's your pay for the rest of the month, don't waste it. He said before addressing the rest of his employees. Alright. Who wants to go drink at a dive bar? It's on me. As several news crew members continued to empty fire extinguishers on Tom's burned body, the person causing his suffering was touching up her makeup in her seat while looking at herself in a handheld mirror. Mua. Who is that hot and sexy reporter that everyone dreams of having in their bed? Katie said to herself, looking arrogantly at a reflection. Looking away from his bored gaze, he saw the cameraman he had sent to Imp City approach to do a close-up report on the new gang of collectors, seeing that he was all dirty and with his clothes torn in several places. "Ah, Clyde, it's good to see you back. Tell me. Did you bring the material I asked for?" I asked calmly, but making the little devil tremble with a macabre smile that told him to say yes to his answer, or he would pay dearly. About that." The reporter changed her expression to a serious one and placed an elbow on her desk, resting her head on her hand. "TSK, the garbage collector's report was good material for my exclusive this week. For your sake, what you brought had better be good." "The camera," she demanded, holding out her hand. The little devil rushed to his boss's request and handed her his equipment, which began to play the recorded material, slowly bringing a big smile to the reporter's face. Well, what do we have here?" Katie said, her expression still on as she watched the video. "From what I could record and hear, an unknown demon challenged the collectors to a territorial fight by himself, defeating almost the entire gang and destroying their lair completely. I think his name was Izuku." Clyde told him the details he witnessed at that moment. "This is amazing. A street fight between a sexy, young, scarred, shirtless demon single-handedly destroying an entire gang. This is way better than a news report. It's gold." Katie walked over to the reporter with a sultry smile. "You exceeded my expectations, Clyde. I'm going to reward you for your good work later." The little devil gulped, his saliva very red. Thank you very much, boss." Katie waves her hand bored without looking at him. "Cece, whatever, just go back to your work and don't bother me." Without erasing her smile, she showed stop the video playing a horned rabbit. Haha, this makes me famous." High atop a building, a pair of sharp red eyes probed the base of the completely mangled scavengers, scattered with all sorts of scrap. Then he saw the badly injured and barely conscious scavengers slowly return to their territory, being escorted by Boyd, who carried Ibod, who had lost consciousness. "Who did this?" the figure asked sharply with a feminine voice towards one of the gang, with the mark of a kick on his face, the first one Izuku kicked. "The green-furred demon did it," he replied, annoyed, holding his arms. "What? One guy caused all this mess and defeated them all?" the woman asked, not believing what she heard. "That's right. He came out of nowhere accompanied by the clown looking for the car we stole," said the collector. "BLITZO," the woman blurted out, already knowing about him. "That demon was too fast and had monster strength. We didn't stand a chance." The delinquent hung his head in shame. "I'm sorry, boss." Don't worry about this." The woman narrowed her eyes. "I'll make sure that fool understands what happens when someone messes with my things. From a useless man, a hero, then a vigilante, and now a demon in the sixth circle of hell, where he works as a bodyguard for a company that assassinates living beings. Okay, we're getting better and better at narrative. I'm impressed, and I'm the one writing this. The point is, Izuku will now start from scratch with a second chance at life, if you can call it that. This is just the beginning. He still has a lot of things ahead of him before he can get used to this place, as well as challenges to overcome and demons to discover that will surely make his stay even more difficult, but let's be honest, we're all looking forward to it. Once upon a time, there was an innocent and charming elementary school teacher with beautiful blonde hair and a heart of gold named. He taught in a small red school with a golden bell on top, and on the side of the building, there was colorful kite art and a rainbow painted on the wall that shone in colors in the daylight. Tall trees and a playground on one side, giving a beautiful touch of nature to the beautiful picture. Clang. The bell rang loudly in the surrounding area, indicating the beginning of a new day, as the teacher opened the white curtains to let in the light. The woman, with a big smile, wrote "Good morning" in white chalk on the green board. "Good morning, my little ones." She greeted with great happiness, twirling in a dance, waving her white blouse and long grey-blue skirt, a green pendant resting on her neck, cherry earrings and yellow glasses. Her blonde hair was tied back in the shape of a flower behind her. "I hope you all did your homework." The children nodded with a dance, indicating that they had done their homework like good students. Although, of course, there are always those who forget, like a boy wearing an orange shirt who turned around on a stool with a pointy dunce cap and faced the wall. And without further ado, the class randomly burst into song. "Students. We love doing our homework, and we love our teacher too. Teacher. And when I ask these questions, you must know the answers well, okay? Okay." The children responded with their arms in the air with excitement. "Teacher. 2 + 6 is." Students. 8. "Teacher. Our behavior with others should be." Students. "Good. Teacher." "Okay, now this is the part when we say the time of day and the date." Student 1. "It's 9 in the morning." Student 2. "January 8. Student 3. "The sun shines with joy." Student 4. "And your husband's birthday is today." as the class sang. La 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 la. As part of the verse preparing to continue, the teacher found herself using up her chalk on a line on the board. Sweat ran down the woman's forehead as the chalk almost completely decomposed, and the chanting became a constant buzzing in her head that made her right eye twitch. Until she opened both of them in horror and turned suddenly to her class. "Oh my god. Stop singing, children. Shut up now." The class fell silent. Mayberry, frightened, put a hand to her forehead. "Oh my goodness, I forgot it's my husband's birthday and I didn't get him anything special." The girl in the class stood in a thoughtful pose for a few seconds in front of her teacher's dilemma until she smiled with excitement. Teacher. Maybe if we call him, we could give him a nice surprise. If we all say happy birthday to him together, that way it will brighten his day." "Great idea, Mindy," Mayberry said with a smile at the idea. The teacher and all the children gathered around the computer on the woman's desk and turned on the monitor screen that would give a direct video call to the residence where the husband was, being ready to shout happy birthday at the top of their lungs. But instead, they all gasped in disbelief at the next thing they saw. The teacher's husband was in the process of having sex with another lady. As the sounds of the woman's pleasurable moans filling the room, several pieces of clothing. We won't be needing this anymore," she said in an amused tone, throwing the newly used condom at her husband, hitting the screen with a sticky mess right over Mrs. Mayberry's face on the other side. The teacher couldn't hold her legs any longer and sat down at her desk, watching in total astonishment as this other young and beautiful woman was having sex with her own husband in the same bed they had bought during their marriage and first honeymoon. A hollow pang began to form in her chest. "Ha. The husband laughed at the woman's boldness. "You are quite bold, you are much better at this than my wife." Keep at it. HM, whatever you say. "Dear." The naked woman replied with total amusement to continue. As they both went back to muting the video call that they didn't notice with another round of moans, the teacher, after a few seconds in silence with her bangs covering her eyes with a passive look, suddenly got up from her chair and began to walk away in the direction of the door calmly. "Wait, teacher." A brown-haired girl stopped her by taking the teacher's hand. "Remember what she taught us. Think before you act." Dark thoughts whirled inside the woman, thoughts that were driving her to grab the girl's neck and throw her fragile body with all her might towards the ceiling in an attempt to satisfy this anger. But she refrained from doing so and only gently pushed her out of her way before finally leaving the room and closing the door. As they both went back to muting the video call that they didn't notice with another round of moans, the teacher, after a few seconds in silence with her bangs covering her eyes with a passive look, suddenly got up from her chair and began to walk away in the direction of the door calmly. As she sped down the highway, her grip on the steering wheel tightened as she gritted her teeth. The pain of her husband's betrayal hurt her more than anything else in the world. But this wasn't going to stay that way. Boom. Kicking open the front door, Mayberry entered the residence, walking slowly, her bangs still covering her eyes. Apparently, the couple, who seemed to still be enjoying themselves, ignored the abruptness of her entrance. Or the sound of the enormous shotgun dragging across the park floor. She'd been a good person her entire life. She'd been raised with good values, respected others, never wished harm on anyone, had a lovely job with beautiful children in her care, and even found someone who promised to care for her and respect her until the day she died. It seems that breaking that last promise triggered something inside her that led her to drive to the city and buy a gun. If he were to break those marriage vows and cease to respect her as his wife, then death will be the only thing that separates them. Boom. The bedroom door opened quickly, causing the two lovers to stop in their tracks. "Darling." The husband exclaimed in fear, seeing himself trapped. What are you doing here so early?" The pupils in his eyes shrank the moment he noticed the gun she was carrying. Honey. Why are you carrying that R? Shut up, Gerald. A new rage erupted in Mayberry's eyes as he raised the heavy shotgun in both hands. "You cheating bastard." Plum. Without hesitation in her gaze, she fired a shot at point-blank range into her husband's chest, sending his body slamming back against the headboard of the bed. Mayberry, still holding it, dropped the heavy weapon on the floor, gasping for air. "Ah!" The mistress screamed in terror as Mrs. Mayberry approached her next. "And you scream like a bitch in heat," the teacher exclaimed with a demonic shriek, brutally shooting the younger woman in multiple areas of her body, splattering her thick blood everywhere. "Oh no, what have you done?" Gerald looked up, his hand on his bleeding chest, shocked at what his wife had done. "She had a family. We could have had a family." Mayberry sobbed, amidst a torrent of despair and rage, reloaded the gun, and shot her husband's head off with a single shot, causing his body to collapse onto the bed, finally dead. Ah. 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 The woman's breathing was the only thing keeping the room from going silent, with the two dead bodies and all the fresh blood adorning the walls and sheets of the bed. This was justice. She'd always been a fine example of a decent human being, and she had a beautiful life that only got better the moment she found love. It wasn't fair that her husband got away with what would be the worst betrayal of all, especially with that slutty bitch so much younger and prettier than her. She could feel it as his demented grin grew wider and wider. This was the just punishment for those two damned sinners. She was the victim of all this, not them. Now she felt liberated, lighter, but above all, much better for not having any regrets about what she had just done. Teacher. Ah. Mayberry gasped, her eyes wide open. No. No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. This can't be happening. This can't be true. Please tell me what isn't true. Her terrified thoughts were confirmed as she slowly turned her gaze to the piece of furniture beside her. And with it, the gazes of her students on the monitor, still on in the video call. She froze in place as she saw her beloved student staring at her, covered in blood and holding the shotgun she had apparently used to brutally murder two people live on video. Ah. Mayberry gasped, her eyes wide open. No. No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. This can't be happening. This can't be true. Please tell me what isn't true. Oh my god. But what have I done? She blurted out in horror, feeling nauseous at seeing the two bodies in the room due to her own actions. And in front of all of you. Mayberry could now analyze the situation clearly. What he had just done was unforgivable. He knew that he had nothing left but pain and life in prison once the police came to him after the neighbors called about the gunshots. He only had one choice left. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, my children. With trembling hands, he picked up the shotgun from the ground next to the dead woman's body, breaking down in tears as he looked at himself through the computer screen. I never wanted you all to see something like this. Not by me. He tried with great difficulty to put on his best smile as he pressed the muzzle of the shotgun to his chest. Sniff, please. Always be kind to each other. Sniff, and do all your chores, children. Sniff, sniff. He closed his eyes with immense pain in his heart. Forgive me for this. I love you all so much. Plum. Chapter 2. A reason to kill. A new day dawns in hell. Oh well, that's what I assumed since Izuku had spent the last 8 hours sleeping to recover from what would have been a bad and tried isekai and Imp plot in almost an entire afternoon. Letting out a long sigh, she tried to shake off the remnants of post-traumatic stress as she walked through the streets of Imp City, bags in hand. She was returning from buying some things at the mall, hoping to get some distraction before starting her new job in hell. And although his sole objective was to buy some things for himself, he found himself wrapped up in the orders of his coworkers and boss, as if he were some kind of errand boy. LOONA. Texting on her phone without looking at it, hey, new guard. Go to the store and get me a good Imperial Brahma, I need to get rid of this horrible taste of cheap alcohol in my mouth. Blitz. Excited, Prince. We need more prints of our business cards so everyone knows about our services. I know we have quite a few, but a few extras wouldn't hurt. I like the number 322 today, don't you think so? Moxie. Quietly reading a book, I'm fine, thanks. Millie. Raising her arms with shining eyes, gummy bears. It's worth noting that I was impressed by how normal a shopping center was in these parts. On the surface, it had all the good points. Including the fact that every worker treated you like shit. Well, even though that candy store tried to stab me with a pointy candy cane, the guy trying to sell me poisoned alcohol, the copy shop guy trying to sell me ink as a drug, and that big lady insulting me with all sorts of rude things I don't know in row 3. That was relatively normal. Izuku said with a somewhat tired expression as he looked at his bags. At least I got what I was looking for, one less problem. Sigh, ah. And Sirio still hadn't finished digesting it. Waking up out of nowhere like a demon in this place, despite having had good intentions, was an issue he still couldn't get out of his head. He was a good person his whole life, never wishing harm on anyone, and from a young age, he was a respectful follower of the law. Sure, he committed murder, but it was all in the name of saving others from the suffering those horrible people could have caused, simply because of their greed. I guess this is the reward for all his good work. Hey. My bag. Izuku turned to a corner of the other street, seeing a purple-skinned, white-haired demon with an office-like outfit jazzing another hyena-like demon who was running, smiling, carrying a woman's bag. Come back here with my bag, you piece of shit. The girl yelled furiously, struggling to keep up with him in her heels. Ha ha ha. Catch me if you can, you old hag. Ha. The thief mocked, increasing his speed and leaving her no chance of overtaking him. The green-haired man saw the scene clearly, also observing how no one paid attention to them or simply did nothing out of disinterest. Without police or any authority to punish them, this was a paradise for lawbreakers. Who would have thought that this place would be hell itself? Izuku was no longer a hero. He had no reason to continue doing good when now he is a demon sent with Satan. There was no reason to be good in this place. There was no need to act like a hero, and like the rest, he also had the need to turn around and continue on his way to work. Okay, what the hell kind of narrative is this? Demon or not, I can't ignore him, she said with determination before jumping onto a light pole and leaving her groceries hanging on it. If anyone needs my help, I'll go right away without a second thought. And immediately, she began jumping like a swift grasshopper between the poles and traffic lights in pursuit of the thief. Forget all that garbage you just read. No matter his current situation or what happened to him before he died, the request for help from someone in need will be something that Izuku Midoriya will never be able to ignore due to the big heroic heart that he still carried in his chest, with the distinction between good and evil. It's like they say, old habits never die. Ah. Unable to keep up with him, the woman stopped, breathing heavily, watching the thief's back walking away with hatred. Ah. Damn. Ah. Whoosh. As she caught her breath, a strong gust of wind blew her white hair, and she saw a green blur jump above her. What the? Haha, this was too easy, the thief boasted, checking the stolen object without slowing down, and it's my lucky day. This girl really had money. Then he hung the bag on his shoulder and looked ahead with satisfaction. Now I can finally get more angel dust, ecstasy, medical drugs and plum. Impacting like a meteor, Izuku fell hard on the criminal, raising a large curtain of smoke, which when cleared, showed the demon with his tongue out and half his face embedded in the pavement, with a young demon above him holding his arms against his back. Damn. Even here things as small as stealing a woman's purse happen, Izuku said, getting up from the ground when he noticed that the man had become unconscious and was picking up the stolen purse, just at the same time that the demon woman arrived exhausted from running so much. Great. Just what I needed, the demon said, recovering a little, before fixing her irritated gaze on the young man as he took a knife out of his pocket. Since I'm tired of you messing with my patience all morning. I can't stand another damn thief stealing my things. So either you give me my bag, or I'm going to. Here. With a passive expression, Izuku extended his arm with her belongings. This is your bag, right? Here you go. Okay, that was new to her. Eyeing him suspiciously, she approached preemptively and snatched the purse from his hands to hold it in her own hands and check if anything was missing, noting, both relieved and more confused, that nothing at all was missing. Didn't he even take the money even when she held it? What kind of game was that? Okay. The white-haired demon said with her eyebrow raised. Be more careful next time you pass by here, miss. Izuku warned her kindly, crossing his arms. There are many thieves in this area who hide in the corners. I'm warning you so that it doesn't happen to you again. He added with a voice of the expression during the return of his purchases, so if you wonder why the walls of this street were adorned with the print of the faces of different demons, you will know that it was the poor fools who tried to rob him. I'll keep that in mind, the woman replied, hugging her bag, still digesting what had happened. Thanks. I guess. You're welcome. The young man replied with a bright smile. The woman froze at the sight of him smiling so genuinely and kindly. It was exactly like the one she remembered receiving every beautiful morning before everything went to hell. If only there was a way to make him pay for all his misery. Snapping out of her thoughts, she looked more closely at the appearance of the young demon who helped her. Wait a minute, aren't you that guy from the news? Hey. Izuku suddenly exclaimed, heading towards a pair of imps on the post where he had left the bags and who were checking them. But when they saw themselves discovered in the act and not wanting to suffer the same fate as the victim embedded in the pavement, they grabbed the bags and began to escape in terror. You can't take them. Those are my purchases. Come back here with that. Without wasting time, he launched himself in pursuit of the two thieves, leaving the demon woman speechless as she watched him walk away. Apparently, he hadn't heard her and hadn't let her finish. Sigh. That kindness and smile remind me so much of them. He let out sadly, clenching his fists tightly as resentment showed in his expression. If only there was a way to make her pay for all this misery. He noticed a small piece of paper on the floor. It must have fallen from the young man who had hurried away. He bent down and picked it up, curiously seeing that it had a short inscription on it. His eyes widened in surprise. Imp. Sir, do we really have to do all this to welcome a new employee? Moxie asked with a hint of weariness in her voice, hanging some balloons on the walls of the break room. Didn't we give it to her yesterday? Oh come on Moxie, this is exciting. Millie said excitedly as she helped her husband. It's a new addition to the team. Let's celebrate. Exactly Mills, you understand me. We have to do it right. We are going to welcome a new member of the family, so we must show him that we value him as such, Blitz said, while hammering the end of a large poster on the back wall of the living room. Looney, could you hold the other end of this for me, please? He asked sweetly towards the table in the room where the hellhound was sitting on the armchair immersed in her phone. Arg. Fine, whatever. LOONA replied with a groan, getting up from her seat and lazily walking to the other end of the sign, and without taking her eyes off her device, she lifted it up to allow him to finish securing the other end. And there you go. Our preparations for the welcome party are ready. Blitz exclaimed happily with a satisfied smile as he looked around the decorated break room. The break room now had a large white sign on the back wall that read, "Welcome to Imp." In large bold black letters with red glitter around it. It was a little worn, though. It must be the same one Blitz used when he hired each of his team members earlier. There was also a cooler stocked with ice and soda on the counter, next to 2 bowls of nachos and salsa on the table in front of the couch. Yeah. A bit simple to give a splendid image of welcoming someone, but even considering the company's somewhat low finances currently, at least Blitz wanted to do something so that Izuku has a great official welcome to his first day of work. Oh, I can't wait to see his reaction. When is he supposed to be back, Blitz? Millie asked excitedly as everyone, except the boss, sat down on the couch in the break room. Shouldn't be long, I was out shopping this morning, so. Anytime? Her boss said, unsure, shrugging his shoulders. Anyway, until I get there, everything will be business as usual. About that, sir, you haven't told us much about Izuku. Moxie said with some distrust in his tone, sitting next to his wife. I mean, we met him yesterday, we saw his strength and all that, but we don't really know anything about him or what job he had before. Or at least if he has experience in something to begin with. Where Blitz is a total non-starter with his boss, Moxie is forced to be the voice of reason from time to time, especially when it comes to hiring a literal teenager as a security guard for professional assassins. His strength is not something he doubted, but the rest of Izuku for not knowing anything more about him other than his name, or his strange way of being that he had shown in this short time during the meeting the day before, something too calm and kind to be very normal, especially for accepting this type of work and not feeling any trace of murderous instinct in him. Don't blame him for being distrustful, it's called being cautious with the out of place. Don't be so boring, Moxie, that would ruin the surprise. Where would be the fun in that? Blitz said, smiling as he playfully petted Moxie on the head and ruffled her hair. He didn't plan on revealing the personal details that the new member of this family had confirmed to him, and don't think it's out of some kind of respect for the privacy of others, he doesn't know the meaning of the word. It's just that the moment must be special when it's revealed. Alright everyone, I'll be in my office for a bit doing some super important boss stuff. Blitz said with a smile as he headed to his office. Let me know when I get there. He hummed that last bit before closing the door to attend to those super mega important boss matters that had nothing to do with the comfortable silk and ostrich feather inferno pillow that he definitely did not buy with the funds for Moxie's next payment. Arg, as always you don't tell us anything, and to top it all off, it was when this place clearly needs more work than just cheap decorations. Moxie replied tiredly, seeing that despite the welcoming decoration, that didn't hide the dirty walls, cobwebs in the corners, or the carpet in the room stained with strange fluids that she didn't even want to know what they were. Sigh. What I wouldn't give for a little cleaning in this place. Oh come on, don't worry so much, Mox. Lily tried to cheer him up by handing him a broom. Between the 3 of us, we can leave this room as good as new. The 3 of us. Moxie saw her monotonously and raised her eyebrow, turning her gaze towards the armchair. LOONA could be seen lying on her back on the couch, checking the latest trends on her phone, reaching out her hand towards the plate of nachos to eat them with all the manners in the world, chewing loudly with her mouth open, and throwing crumbs all over the carpet. Burp. After burping, she scratched her rear end with the same hand she was eating with, thus repeating the same process once again. Haha, Millie laughed nervously. Well. Anyway, the 2 of us are enough. Let's get started, shall we? Moxie sighed in resignation, reluctantly beginning to sweep the carpet while his positive wife tried to clean the strange fluid stains with a wet towel. After half an hour chasing this pair of elusive little devils, our protagonist, with a tired expression, had finally arrived at the entrance of the company building with both bags in his hands. Sigh. I'm finally here. The young man said tiredly as he entered through the main door. After that race, I wasn't in the mood to climb almost 10 flights of stairs. It's good exercise, but this time I preferred to take the elevator to get there straight away. Once he pressed the button, there was a slight tremor before he began to rise, and as he awaited his fate, with the bags on the floor, he leaned his back against the wall and crossed his arms, looking quite thoughtful. No matter how many times he repeated it to himself, thought about it, or questioned it, the fact that his life had taken such a huge turn continued to torment him inside. Knowing that he was dead and had ended up in this place with the other sinners gave him too much mental stress. Even with Blitz's idea that he should accept that this would be his life now, something he couldn't do so easily. And speaking of his new boss, there remains one question about his job title and the people he'll be working with. And that's murder. If he's going to work for hitmen. Oh my god, that sounded so stupid. It's more than likely that he'll also find himself needing to kill targets dictated by the client. When he was still a vigilante alongside Lady Nagant, it was very hard at first, but over time, he came to accept murder if it was to save innocent people. That was his purpose for being able to do it. But now, being dead, he no longer had a reason to kill. There are no innocents to save, no victims, no heroes. Izuku clenched his fists, then frowned, and I no longer have a reason to kill. I'll just fulfill my role as a bodyguard for a while, and then I'll figure out what to do next. Let's spare you the context. Did you really think he'd be a bodyguard for assassins for the rest of his immortal existence? It would only be temporary until he became more familiar with the environment and found something better to do. Ding. His self-reflection proved to be a welcome distraction until he reached the company floor, grabbed his bags, and began walking until he reached the door with the Imp logo painted in red graffiti. Well, this is my second day in hell and my first day as a bodyguard for assassins. I never thought I'd be demoted from hero to this. He muttered reluctantly, placing a hand on the doorknob. At least don't open any more surprises for my delicate heart. He mentioned, relieved, opening the door. Surprise. Wah. Izuku yelled, throwing the bags into the air from the terrible scare and 23 to his heart to date, but trying to react in time, he moved quickly to catch the things before they fell to the ground, letting out a sigh of relief after doing so few. That was close. Oh, sorry Izuku. I didn't mean to scare you like that. Millie hurriedly apologized, embarrassed. See, dear. I told you not to surprise him like that. Moxie scolded his wife for jumping up to welcome him. Oh okay Millie, no problem. Izuku replied with a somewhat nervous smile so she wouldn't worry. The truth is, this was strange. Leaving aside the topic of bad things happening here, the demons in this company didn't have the exact attitude of cold-blooded killers. A clear example was the very smiley and energetic Millie, who acted like a teenager excited about everything. This detail intrigued me, and in a way, it reminded her a bit of Mina Shido. If you're done with the shitty greetings and apologies, can we just get this started already? I'm hungry. Luna complained in the distance. But you already ate half of everything. Moxie said, looking bored. Be thankful I'm leaving something for you. The bored wolf replied, returning to her phone. I'm being very considerate. You should thank me. The imp decided not to continue with this. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Hurry up Izuku, come in. Lily hurriedly invited the green-haired boy, pulling on his arm. Let's go to the break room. We're organizing a little welcome party for you. Welcome party. Okay, Izuku was caught off guard by that as he followed the imps and entered the break room, seeing the decorations and the layout. Wow, I wasn't expecting something like this. Thanks. No problem. Exclaimed the happy little devil. I'm glad you liked the surprise. We're a little sorry to have to welcome you to a room like this. But we didn't get around to cleaning up in time. Moxie narrowed her eyes at a certain bloodhound who was busy with her own business. Shut up, fatty, I never clean. Luna said nonchalantly. I'm not fat. I claim, blushing. Well, I guess that's how it always is between them. Izuku thought with a nervous smile, until the lack of a certain eccentric demon's presence was noticed. Where's Blitz? He asked aloud about his new boss. Oh, Blitz really wanted to be here to welcome you, but he's in his office serving a client who arrived about 5 minutes ago, too bad. Millie informed her with a certain amount of pity in her tone. Anyway, who wants cake? Because I do want it. Millie hummed excitedly as she took a box of classic round vanilla cake with white frosting and the words, "Welcome to the team," in blue frosting out of the mini fridge. Another thing to note on his list of abnormalities in hell with these demons, whether it was the small effort in a welcome for him or the good attitude they showed him, this was totally wrong from what was expected, since he thought of something more like a horrible and despicable attitude towards him. But it turned out to be the opposite. After everyone had a slice of cake and a cold drink from the cooler, the imp members and their newest member sat down at the living room table. Once they were settled, it didn't take long for the devils to start an entertaining conversation, asking questions of their new team member. Izuku, now that you're part of the team, do you mind if we ask you a few questions about yourself? Millie asked with a smile, eager to meet her new coworker. We want to get to know you better. Sure, I don't mind. Although I can't say I'll answer something that feels too personal, I hope you can understand, he said with an apologetic smile before opening his soda. There were still things he wasn't too sure about hell yet, and one of them is mentioning that he was once a human who was also a hero at one time. I prefer to be cautious on the subject. Of course. Everyone here knows each other well, so feel free to share whatever you want. So, did you really meet the boss like he told you during yesterday's meeting? Millie asked curiously while eating some of her cake. I'm curious about that too. Moxie added, paying attention. If you don't know yet, Izuku, he tends to go overboard with details. Oh, well, I'm not really exaggerating. We actually met yesterday, and I had just, finished a job to kill a gang that was, bothering a club and its employees. He tried to build a believable story from the failed mission that caused his death, and then I saw Blitz being harassed by some gang members, and I went to help him, then he asked me for help to get his car back. And well, you already know the rest, he finished telling with nervous sweating, sipping from his drink. Wow, that's interesting to know. Millie commented, clapping softly. So, does that mean you already have experience as a bodyguard? LOONA asked, tilting her eyes from her phone as she lay on the couch, taking the green-haired boy by surprise when she addressed him. Izuku looked thoughtful regarding his phase as a vigilante, let's just say. I sort of have some experience in that. I see. And without further ado, she turned her attention back to her device, abandoning the conversation. I guess she didn't have enough attention on it yet to engage in a real conversation. Moxie kept looking with some suspicion at the indecisive expressions Izuku put on when answering, as if he was hiding something the young man noticed and tried to act normal and tell us. Do you already have experience killing before? Izuku sweated a little nervously, the job required it every time the troublemaker got a little more defiant. He answered quickly, going back to eating part of his cake. He honestly didn't know why he was feeling like he was being interrogated by the devil. Was his nervousness that noticeable? What would happen if they found out he was a hero before? Was he worrying too much? He didn't know, and it made him even more uneasy. Okay, so how long have you been doing that? You're pretty young to be working in a club like that. Moxie asked, curious about how much experience he had in his supposed inside job. Well, besides. Moxie raised an eyebrow. I've never seen or heard of you in any club before, and I'm from this part of hell. And why does it seem like you're not quite sure what you're answering? She looks at him accusingly. Are you hiding something from us? Moxie. Don't be rude. Millie exclaimed, reproaching her husband. Don't you remember what he said before about not wanting to share some personal information? You're invading his privacy. Apologize immediately. Wait, I didn't mean to be so invasive. Moxie said nervously, trying to figure out how her words could be interpreted as if she was interrogating him with her questions. Forgive me, Izuku, I didn't mean to sound so invasive. I was just being curious, more like being a fucking shitty stalker. LOONA said while texting on her Twitter. And no problem. Izuku had to be understanding of her doubts about it, something similar would surely happen in the world of the living. I can understand your concerns, considering that Blitz offered me the job 2 hours after meeting me. But there are still some things from my past that continue to torment me, and it's a bit difficult for me to answer you clearly. I hope you understand, he said a little uncomfortably, taking a sip of his soda. Oh, okay. Moxie nodded, happy to be off the topic of accidental harassment. Changing the subject, what's your specialty, Izuku? Millie asked with a curious smile. My specialty? Izuku asked, tilting his head in confusion. You know, the way you used to deal with troublesome demons, did you use your strength or some weapon? Millie said as she explained what she meant. Oh, I've never actually used a weapon before. Izuku scratched the back of his neck with a nervous smile. I always preferred to do things with my own hands. Wait, so you have zero experience with firearms? Moxie asked, raising her eyebrow. I understand that you're strong and all, but you shouldn't get too confident. If you're going to be on this job watching our backs, you'll be forced to use one because of the risks it entails. It would be a risk to show ourselves so close to certain humans. But I don't know how to use one. The young man excused himself somewhat nervously. It was more than obvious that he had never used any type of weapon in his life. This time Millie was the one who stood in a thoughtful pose for a few seconds, before snapping her fingers with a lively smile. Oh, I have an idea. Mayberry's demonic form was pacing around Blitz's office, telling him her entire tragic story and how she got here. Though, well, Blitz was only half listening, leaning back in his leather office chair with a bored expression. So, you mean she was hotter than you? BLITZO commented with a careless smile at the woman who was glaring at him with piercing red eyes of anger on her face, partially shadowed by the closed blinds. I'm just saying I'm having a little trouble understanding the spontaneous melodrama you just spat at me, ma'am. Mayberry annoyed intensified her instinct to kill grrrrrrrr. Miss. No ma'am, Cicero irritably muttered. Anyway, I don't think you quite understand how we're operating down here. You see, we take revenge on the living, and from what you just babbled to me, it seems the central cast of your shitty tragicomedy novel is probably right here in hell with you now. Boop. Blitz playfully punched her in the nose in mockery. Mayberry's pointed tail whipped around, her purple claws extended, and she gritted her teeth trying to contain herself. This little devil was becoming more than irritating, nothing compared to the one who had helped her before. Mayberry extended her left claws as if to grab something. No. Everyone. That bitch survived and now everyone is calling her a hero, she declared irritably. Between the talk shows and the shit donations for surviving, she made so much money that she's now a millionaire. Literally getting shot was the best thing that ever happened to her. Once dead, she found out about all the good things that happened to her after she committed suicide, but of all that shit that was happening, she could only hear from the doctors, children, donors, newscasts, and the degenerates that woman slept with, the same fucking phrase over and over again. A child on the street. Holding a balloon, you are a heroine. A doctor. Giving her a certificate, you're a heroine. The mayor. Giving her a medal, you are a heroine. The female reporter. Handing her a huge bag of money, you're a hero. Random muscle guy. Vigorously drilling her insides on the bed, you're a hero-y. She's not. She's a heroine. Boom. Mayberry slammed her fists on the desk, cracking, her fury unleashed in her murderous glare as Blitz stared nervously into her face. Yeah, okay, you're absolutely right, I agree with you 100%. BLITZO stammered in a quick nervous voice as he frantically pressed a red button under the desk several times. As the red light outside the office wall flickered beneath a disturbed customer label on a board, we saw Izuku nervously holding a crossbow in his hands with Millie at his side, and in front of him was a photo of a smiling family. A father, a mother, and 2 children. His arms trembled as the crosshairs hovered around the man's crotch area. Come on Izuku, you can do it. Millie encouraged him with a smile, raising her fist in the confidence exercise she had thought of so that the new member would have some notion with weapons. Just stop shaking and relax, otherwise you'll shoot our only target support. LOONA lay on her back on the gray sofa holding the family photo in one hand and her phone in the other. Wow, I feel so loved around here. Just take a deep breath. Millie said, inhaling. And let it out. But it's a family. Izuku argued between fear and disturbance looking at the photo. Under what circumstances would we have to kill an entire family? Well, if that's what the client wants. Millie shrugged. Actually, I agree with Izuku. Moxie said, leaning against a wall behind them with his arms crossed. Maybe a shitty father, a criminal lawyer, or a mafia family. That's more understandable. He suggested examples that he would consider more suitable for killing. But eradicating an entire innocent family line? That's too much. Hey. Don't you know they're innocent? LOONA straightened up, pointing at the photo in her hand. This kid probably sets dogs on fire. She points at the boy. This girl probably molests African children online. She points at the girl. And this guy. She narrowed her eyes at the smiling father. This guy probably watches porn because he's unhappy with his wife and cheats on her with some random girl. Exactly. Millie forced a smile, agreeing with her. Humans are full of nasty secrets and disgusting thoughts. That's why so many of them end up here as the sinful and disgusting trash they are. Is something wrong, Izuku? I asked, seeing him somewhat downcast with his forehead slightly blue. Yes. I'm fine. The young man replied, recovering from Millie's words, who didn't know the weight they had on him since he didn't know he was a human before. But I still don't feel comfortable with this kind of white. Don't worry too much about the details of the goal, just clear your mind, believe in yourself, and you will be able to achieve anything without any problems. He tried to encourage her as any attentive teacher would do with his students. Now choose a target. I advise you first to the infidel, that way the racist will be much more pleasant, I whispered to him, advising him. Sigh, I'm still not entirely convinced. Izuku sighed, reluctantly putting his eye back on the crossbow sight. Same here. Moxie said, agreeing with the young man. It's a bit excessive to kill an entire family. I think we could be a little more selective with the types of contracts we accept. Just as Izuku had already aligned the gun sight, BLITZO suddenly burst into the room with a loud bang, followed by Mrs. Mayberry. Guys, I want you to meet. Wua. Startled, Izuku fired the arrow which began bouncing frantically around the room. Millie jumped into Moxie's arms as the arrow hit a computer, then flew up and smashed the photo the surprised LOONA was holding into pieces. The arrow hit the bottom of an eel tank, causing it to wobble dangerously. And just as the projectile headed towards Ms. Mayberry's face, Izuku had caught the arrow with one hand in time, letting out a sigh of relief for making it in time. To our new client. Crash. The eel tank suddenly fell over, spilling glass and water all over the floor. Orlando. Fabricio. Blitz raised an eyebrow watching his eels wriggle on the living room floor. Why were they on the ground? Oh, I know. They're just learning to walk on land and wanted to surprise me, right? Oh. They move me. FRRRRRRRRRRR. Flush. And out of nowhere, the eels burst with electricity into the water spread throughout the room, causing it to burst into flames, making Izuku, Loona, Moxie and Millie cower in fear. Ahhhh. Fire. Blitz exclaimed, agitated, putting both hands on his head, while Izuku, in comical desperation, began to empty the fire extinguisher all over the room. Soon, the imp firefighters arrived to put out the flames, while the group waited outside for them to finish their work. All the imps were immune to fire, buildings weren't. I mean, even such a bizarre hell has its limits. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Izuku repeated over and over again, kneeling with his head on the floor in front of his boss for the accident he caused. Shit. Now the place is even worse than it already was. Moxie said listlessly, looking at the building. Who would have thought that a trusted army with highly dangerous firearms under a roof without protective equipment would cause such an incident? I'm very surprised. Millie said, looking up thoughtfully and innocently. Heh, good destruction, new guard. Loona mocked viciously. Sorry. Oh, don't worry about it Izuku, accidents happen, no problem. Blitz said with a carefree smile, despite having just seen his section of the building consumed by fire. Loona. Oh, she's smiling, isn't she? Moxie. I have a bad feeling. The boss chuckled. Hahaha, you see. Ever since the incident with that damn kid, which turned out not to be an accident, I did an exhaustive search for only what was insurance, and because of that, I insured our sector for a value of $25,000. $25,000. The three seasoned employees exclaimed, their eyes wide open. I thought the company was a bit short on revenue. Izuku commented, looking confused. But of course we're broke. Didn't you see the dirty, poorly maintained mess we had for a living room? Moxie said, upset, before turning to his boss. Where did I get that much money from, sir? Well, let's just say it was the money for next month's pay and to refill the pantry at that same time, Blitz replied, looking quite relaxed despite Moxie's expressions of extreme bewilderment, Millie's concern, or Loona's intensifying grunts, but now that this happened, they're going to pay us double. With that, he happily held up a paper contract, as long as I have this receipt, there won't be any problem. At that moment, Loona and Izuku began to smell something strange in the air, slowly heading down the trail until they collided glances and looked in the direction of their boss, completely happy, listing all the frivolous things he had planned for the insurance money after the repairs. Loona. Blitz. Izuku. Why does the ink on that paper smell like lemon? Abruptly stopping his excited monologue, the aforementioned turned to look at the sheet of paper and smelled it for a moment, just before noticing that the written letters were beginning to run away like melting ice cream. The ink was made with lemon juice, oh ho. Moxie face palmed. Don't tell me you got scammed again. But any hope was dashed when she saw him sweating profusely, trying to avoid eye contact. Ugh. Why do you keep doing this kind of thing, sir? Haha. Well, no. There's nothing to worry about, I can fix it, really. Blitz said, looking more than nervous. Will be able to make up for some of the lost money with the pay from the new contract, so. Everyone looked at Mayberry behind them, arms crossed and looking impatient as she stomped her feet. If you're done wasting my time and patience, are you going to kill her? Or should I leave here with all my money? No. No need for that, we'll take the job. Hahaha Blitz quickly responded nervously, just give us a few hours, and we'll kill that bitch, otherwise, your first kill will be 50% off. Fine. Was the last thing the woman said before walking away from there. Since when did we start implementing that agreement? Moxie asked once the client left. Oh, I don't know. BLITZO turned to look at him and held his face. Maybe when you set fire to my office in front of a fucking client, you freaking scrotal face. He shouted euphorically. My fault. Izuku mentioned, slightly raising his hand, still feeling guilty. Pushing Moxie out of the way in anger, he turned to the rest. Now someone please tell me that fancy book is still intact. Loona was standing against the wall, typing on her phone. You mean our only ticket to the other side? She boredly pulled out a blue book from behind her. Yeah, I got it. BLITZO walked up to her and started talking to her like a baby, and that's why you're my favorite, my little Loonalu. You, stop. Loona said in disgust. Millie drew a pentagram with chalk on the wall, which glowed red and made a purple fiery portal appear, leading to the human world. Okay, leaving aside our precarious financial situation. Blitz hooked an arm around the neck of his new bodyguard. It's time for your first contract, Izuku. Sniff. He wipes away a tear while smiling. I'm so happy that you're going to accompany us on this mission. Since today you will learn all the virtues of this job and being a member of this wonderful family. I'm not going. Izuku interrupted, shattering Blitz's hopes like glass. Wait. What? His boss exclaimed, looking at him in surprise. Why are you saying you're not going? This is supposed to be your first assassination job. Izuku tilted his gaze uncertainly as he stroked his arm. I promised you I'd do my job as a bodyguard and I plan to keep it. He frowned slightly. But I don't think it's a good idea for me to go with you to the world of the living. Blitz couldn't help but look disappointed by her words. But. Also. Izuku interrupts him again with an awkward half smile. I think I should stay and tidy up the office a bit. After all, it was my fault he ended up like this. You have a good point there. Moxie said, crossing his arms, half annoyed. The place was already disgusting before, but now it was even worse after his carelessness. It was only fair that he take responsibility for his actions. Not to mention that it wouldn't be a good idea to bring a rookie into the human world without prior weapons training or some orientation to the place. But. First job. Crazy slaughter. Forging new family ties. The boss stammered, still in a very bewildered state, being pushed by Millie along with Moxie towards the portal. Closing once the three crossed to the other side, the only ones left on the street were the Hellhound and the Horned Rabbit when the firefighters left the scene. LOONA turned boredly towards Izuku. Don't even think for a second about asking me for help cleaning the office, because there's no way I'm going to. Don't worry, I wasn't going to do it. Izuku replied, turning his back on her and heading towards the entrance of the building, leaving LOONA alone now, who couldn't help but look at him strangely. Okay, let's get this straight, she didn't give a shit about other people's problems, she didn't care about their opinions, if they hurt each other, bothered each other, or in any other way that involved relationships with other social parasites. And that's why she couldn't understand why that rabbit-shaped demon was making her a little. She didn't know the exact word, so let's just say it was just that it caught her attention. To be more precise, the strange behavior that seemed to be constantly shifting between insecurity and kindness, with a reasoning that she didn't want to hurt, from what she could hear. She was more into her social media than anything else. She reiterated, she wasn't sure, and she didn't understand why he cared in the first place, as she watched his back enter the building. That guy is even weirder than Moxie. And that's saying something. Yeah. Can you do it quickly? Okay, thank you very much. Izuku hung up the phone Blitz had given him and continued sweeping the burnt debris from the break room with a calm expression. Now you're probably wondering why Izuku refused to go to the world of the living. That would be his chance to return home, and do you know the answer? Well no, you don't know, or you will know, because there is no answer to give. He was dead, end of story, no longer belonging to the realm of the living the moment he woke up in an alley in hell. Not to mention the fact that he had nothing to go back to anyway. He had no money, no home, and everyone he knew had abandoned him because of the murders he'd committed alongside a fugitive from justice. And don't think he was willing to go back to that life of a lone vigilante, since it wasn't a life at all, but a very hard mission he'd been on for too long. He still remembers his first days with Lady Nagant, to be more exact, the first day of his second week after joining her. They had tracked down a corrupt official who was altering the data of people and heroes who had disappeared without a trace. And after stalking him in search of the perfect moment, according to their mentor, they had managed to corner him in the middle of a dead end. That moment changed things forever. Shaking his head trying to clear away those bad thoughts of guilt, he returned to concentrating on sweeping up the grime and trying to make this place presentable before the others returned. Click. His attention was drawn to the door to the room opening, but instead of LOONA, it was the same woman who had made the assassination mission request, and now that he looked at her properly, the same one he had helped that very morning. It's you. So you're still here. Mayberry said monotonously, entering the room and walking until she was in front of the young demon, remaining silent for a few seconds, exchanging glances, until the woman relaxed her expression a little. Tell me. Were you also a human? Hey. I see, so that's what happened to him. Izuku commented, sitting on the burned armchair, finishing listening to Mayberry's story, who was sitting next to him. Apparently she had asked the young man to listen to her problems for a few moments. It seemed she needed to talk to someone about what had happened to her after all the shit that had happened before and after her death. Hey. But. I don't understand. Izuku looked at her bewildered. Why did you kill them? I mean, I don't understand much about marriage or having a partner since I never had one, but. Committing murder? How did you go to such extremes? Even a sane person who lives by doing good deeds has their limits, especially when the person who promised their life to love you betrays you in such a disgusting way. Mayberry told him, her face emotionless except for the sad tone in her voice. That's why I understood that no one is exempt from suffering a devastating feeling controlling your actions and changing your way of being. It's only a matter of time before that something comes along and does the job. Izuku lowered his head with a mixture of sadness and melancholy, remembering the heartbreaking image in his mind a few moments before he arrived. Yeah. I guess you're right about that. Mayberry suddenly began to clench her teeth and fists in an attempt to contain the frustration that was beginning to bubble inside her. You know what bothers me the most about all of this? Is that the damn bitch my husband was cheating on me with his rubbing shoulders with my death. She screamed, filled with rage, before continuing. It's a horrible and nauseating feeling that she's living the good life thanks to the frantic outburst of rage in which I committed suicide in the process because I felt bad for having done all of that. But if I had known that she was still alive. Sniff. She took off her glasses for a moment, wiping away her tears. Sniff. Whatever. That's why when I saw the card you dropped while helping me, I came here so you could take care of it once and for all. I don't want to continue with the idea that she can live a happy life when she ruined mine and continues to benefit from it. That was my reason for wanting to kill her. Izuku was immersed in complete silence at everything he had just heard, leaving him thinking about several things. Thanks for listening. I really needed it. The demon thanked her with an almost imperceptible smile. Oh, no problem. Izuku replied, scratching the back of his neck, somewhat embarrassed, but deep down, surprised that he wasn't so affected by hearing a murder story as if it were nothing. You know, the main reason I came back here was also to thank you for helping me and being so kind as to return my bag. She looks at him with a calm smile. That kindness reminds me of my dear students. They were the suns that lit up all my mornings. You don't have to thank me for that, anyone would have helped you. Before completing that sentence, I noticed the woman looking at him with a poker face. Sorry, for a moment I forgot who lives in this place. Don't worry, you're still getting used to it, I guess. Although I'm sorry you're here, you died too young. Mayberry stated sadly. She didn't look a day over 18. About that, how did you know I was a human? Izuku asked curiously about that detail. I mean, I don't know how you differentiate a dead person from a demon from hell. That's easy. He points at him with a slightly arrogant smile. Your kindness gives you away. Literally everyone here is a piece of shit. Oh, well. I guess it's something notable around here, the young man responded with a nervous smile, closing his eyes. This conversation was certainly liberating for both of us. Appearing out of nowhere in this place when you've been a good person for most of your life is beyond stressful. Remember how Izuku took it when he realized he was dead. Being sent to hell with Satan causes you post-traumatic stress. Maybe talking it over with another human who died doesn't solve all the problems, but Izuku at least felt a little lighter from all that burden now, enough to relax for a moment and lean back on the couch with his eyes closed. And in fact, it seemed to work a little better than he thought. He felt so relaxed it was like he was walking through a deep forest. He could almost hear the sound of water flowing through the river, the breeze rustling through the pine trees, the soothing glow of the moon on his fur, the sweet scent of warming food coming from the beautiful two-story cabin that Blitz, Moxie and Millie were sneaking up to by a window and… Wait, what? Izuku opened his eyes suddenly, and although he rubbed them thinking that there was something in them, he could still see that same image in front of him, as if he were in the scene himself. What the… Arg. But suddenly, Izuku groaned in pain through his teeth while holding his head tightly. Hey, what's wrong? Mayberry asked, suddenly. But without being able to reprimand him, the young man continued clenching his teeth in an attempt to soothe the pain, which lasted a couple of seconds longer, until he abruptly stopped staring into space, without noticing at any moment the faint violet glow in his eyes when he opened them. In the middle of a forest, the three imps stood in front of a small two-story wooden house by the lake, as the and Moxie leaned against the side of the house coming out of the bushes, and the chief stood up, peeking through a window while looking through a paper in his hands. Cheap blonde eye, huge ass, firm boobs, easy slut face. Yep, it has to be her, Blitz muttered after comparing the information given by the clients with what you see through the glass. Damn, this is too easy. Sniff, she would have been the perfect target for Izuku to make his first kill. Sniff, it would have been a beautiful memory, he said with his lower lip trembling with super sad little eyes looking at the ground. Sigh, are you still going on about that, sir? Moxie patted his tired face. I thought we already made it clear why you couldn't make it. Millie looked at him disapprovingly. Moxie. Have a little compassion, the boss is very emotional because he wanted to do this to his new employee. She turned to her boss, stroking his back in a sympathetic manner, while he himself whimpered like a pitiful dog with tears. SHH, it will pass, boss, it will pass. Even with that pitiful image, Moxie was not affected at all. It wouldn't have been good for him to come anyway. He frowned, crossing his arms. We have to complete this contract well after that nonsense of spending all his funds on a fake insurance. So we can't waste time training him on how he should do things, because I doubt what he said about having experience as a club guard. His tone didn't convince me. That's why I don't think he could do this mission well. Stopping his whining after hearing this, Blitz frowned at him. Oh, so you doubt Izuku's words and ability? Well, in that case. You finished the job. He exclaimed, pushing a rifle against his chest, which he caught with both hands. Moxie looked stunned and smiled nervously. Take care of it myself. But of course, this is something that even someone like you can handle. Decius Blitz with his eyes closed and a kind smile. Too kind to have looked annoyed a few moments ago, since you are such a pro at your job, you should show us your skill. Okay. With confidence on her face, Moxie accepted the gun and climbed through the window, preparing the sight. After all, you said it was an easy target. That's right, very easy. His smiling boss clarified behind him. After all, she's just a happy mother who just got out of the hospital. Moxie put her eye on the sight, smiling. Yeah, it will be quite easy to shoot a happy mother who just left the hospi. And as soon as she heard that statement, that expression of firm confidence on her face abruptly fell, and she turned around, seeing her boss put on a dark and sinister sharp smile, enjoying the moment. Apparently Blitz didn't take those judgmental words towards the employee he himself had hired very well, only just realizing that he was getting revenge on him by seeing him succumb to the pressure he was under when dealing with certain targets that he himself would classify as innocent and incapable of killing, and worst of all, that he couldn't back down for having accidentally boasted about his experience in the labor camp. In hindsight, he should have shut his ass. Moxie gulped and stood, staring out the window with a crestfallen expression as she watched the happy family enjoying a wonderful dinner, all seated in the dining room, fully decorated with decorative axes and pistols placed in stained glass windows along the walls. The woman who was the target affectionately rubbed noses with her husband while holding a plate of food that she happily served to her two eagerly awaited offspring. The imp began to waver as the uncontrollable nerves kept making the gun in his hands tremble. There was no fucking way he could kill any of them. They were the sight of a perfect family. I can't do this. Moxie exclaimed, sweating from nerves. Give me that. BLITZO reluctantly snatched the rifle from her. You only have the balls to complain like a pussy. He pushed him away from the window to put his eyes on the scope, seeing through the pointer the head of the woman who smiled with big doe eyes and blinked innocently. I got you, bitch. He muttered, his finger slowly rushing to the trigger. Wait, sir, are we really going to kill a family? Moxie asked in disbelief. Don't be an idiot, we're just killing a mother. BLITZO commented without taking his eyes off her. That will end up ruining a family. He smiled, ready to shoot. But Moxie began, still not willing to carry out this murder. Forget about the damn request. He almost had an emotional breakdown believing he had killed a child. And this would be much worse in comparison. Wait a minute, sir, let's think things over a little more. Boom. Moxie, at the last second trying to stop him, raised the rifle just before BLITZO fired the bullet that deflected and hit a glass mirror in the house, very close to the woman's face, causing her and the other family members to gasp in fright. What was that, Ralphie? Martha asked her husband, who was sitting at the table. Ralph shook his head. I'm not sure, Martha. But whatever it is. He stood up with a toothy grin, pulling a shotgun from under the table. It's going to be dinner tomorrow night. Martha placed the platter on the table, drank a glass of wine, and smashed it on the floor. All right, kids. Gun out. She called with an evil grin, watching as the two little ones also grinned evilly as they pulled out smaller weapons. Looks like we have some rabbits to catch, haha. Ralph chuckled evilly, the gun's clicking. What the hell was that, Moxie? Blitz yelled angrily at his employee for having made him fail on purpose. Moxie breathed anxiously, before falling to her knees with her hands over her face. I'm sorry, sir. You two looked so innocent and happy together that I couldn't help it. I panicked. Tears fell from her eyes telling her reason. Blitz facepalmed. Oh come on. Who the hell in this world is innocent? From the moment you were born, you were a little parasite sucking the life out of your mom. She grabbed her chest in an imitation of holding a pair of breasts, before leaning down and facing him, grabbing the collar of his suit. Now stop acting like such a dumb baby so we can finish this, and so I can boom. AHHG. Fucking shit. A bullet tore through the wall and shot BLITZO in the arm, who screamed, clutching the wound as black blood spurted out. Karun. Blitz and Millie leaped into the air just as another shot created a bigger hole in the wall. Martha and Ralph, grinning, jumped through the hole and gave chase, guns drawn. Moxie peeked out from behind the bush, quickly looking around, only too late noticing the small hand that grabbed his spiky tail. Where are ya? He yelped in terror as he was pulled into the darkness. Where did you go, little creature? Ralph said, firing a bullet into the air and climbing onto the wooden dock near the lake. You can't hide from me forever. He carefully inched forward along the platform, while Millie's head was above water below the dock, holding a knife in her mouth. Crash. The little demon leaped across the dock before landing with a grin and her knife poised to plunge down his back. Ralph quickly turned and fired a couple of shots at point-blank range, but she dodged and leaped into the air, holding a knife in both hands ready to pierce his head. Haha. Ralph pulled a beer bottle from behind his back, then smashed it over Millie's head as she landed, inches from hitting him. The glass shattered, and she fell to the ground with a loud groan. Millie struggled weakly to her feet, but immediately collapsed face first onto the dock, her eyes closed. The man was grinning like the devil himself, seeing the results of his actions, while a small pool of black reddish blood oozed from the wound on her head. Moxie opened his eyes and gasped sharply as he found his hands and body tied with rope to a chair made of human skin. Human skin. Forget the word chair, he was tied to a fucking headless skinned corpse sitting in a chair. And as if the trauma he was feeling wasn't enough, Moxie's face fell into more fear when he saw the boy and girl in front of him, both with glowing red eyes and devious smiles on their faces. Moxie gulped, thinking, trying to calm her fear. "Oh, hello little ones. Aren't you cute kids?" The children looked at each other for a few seconds, until they turned their attention to him, both giving him a sweet innocent smile that calmed the devil's heart when he saw that those little ones were not monsters. It's nice to have a new creature to play with. Okay, he admits it, he was scared shitless. Moxie stared in terror as a red spotlight shone on the light, revealing a human head above which a hunting trophy and various limbs were displayed on wooden plaques on the wall stained with red blood, masks sewn from human skin in a state of suffering, several picture frames made from pressurized bones showing different humans in horrific torture, and a banner of human skin stretched across the wall with "Bless this mess" embroidered on it. And as if Moxie didn't already have enough disturbing material, he saw on the banquet table in front of him a dead, sauced human body on a platter served like a pig with an apple in its mouth, and its organs displayed in a bowl on the side. This family wasn't the picture of happiness and innocence he thought they were. They were psychopathic serial killers and torturers. Oh, shit. Meanwhile, BLITZO ran desperately for his life in the darkness of the night forest. 4 gunshots rang out as BLITZO dashed through a bush, the echoing acoustics of Martha's evil laughter only accelerating his pace. The demon skidded down a grassy hill and landed on his feet, hiding under the bushes, his eyes darting around in fear as he gasped for breath. "I know it hurts, little one," Martha hummed, strolling around the area calmly, as if it were a simple game of hide and seek. BLITZO ran behind a tree, taking deep, silent breaths, pressing his back against the bark, covering his mouth, not daring to move a single muscle. The information the client had provided was completely flawed. At no point did he mention that the target was a crazy, skilled rifle wielder. Now that he had a hole in his arm, and on top of that, he was being hunted like a rat in his hunter's territory, he had no choice but to try to lose her trail and find an opportunity to put a bullet in her fucking huge ass. "I promise I can make that pain go away really fast." Martha walked through the woods, not far from the demon's position. "Just come here and let Mama Martha put a bullet in that cute skull." Waiting in silence after a short while of listening to the crazy woman's threats, Blitz sighed in relief after hearing the footsteps fade from the area. Now he just had to meet up with the rest of his team, and then he could ARQ. Out of nowhere, Blitz found himself pinned by the neck against a tree by the lower grip of Martha's weapon, who was wearing a crazy smile after having captured her prey. "Got you." She took a closer look at the trapped creature, who until a few minutes ago she thought was just a foolish traveler lost in the woods. "Oh, so you're a little demon, huh?" she asked with a wide grin. "Come to drag me and my family to hell. Not today, Satan." She pressed the gun deeper into BLITZO. "Haha, I'm going to send you all back where you came from." With that, she slammed the butt of the rifle into BLITZO's face, sending him sprawling. She picked him up like a sack of potatoes and slowly headed toward another part of the woods. AHHH. AHHHH. AHHHH. Back at the Imp offices in Hell, Izuku with his face covered in sweat was breathing as if he had run a marathon, still having both hands on his head even after the pain had ended. What the was that? He wondered in shock. Something very strange had just happened to him. From one moment to the next he began to feel a strong throbbing in his head, just like the danger sensor when he had it, and the next he was having this strange vision about his boss and his 2 employees in danger for the human world doing their job. No, it couldn't just be a vision. He felt as if he himself was there, watching from the sidelines everything that had happened. And if everything he saw was real and was happening right now, then… "Hey, are you okay?" Mayberry asked again about his condition. I'm sorry, I have to go," the young man said quickly, getting up from the armchair, to the bewilderment of the woman, who just watched him leave the room. Boom. "I told you not to come ask me for help cleaning," Luna replied, bored, very focused, texting on her phone, lying on the chair in Blitz's office with her feet on the desk. "No way, I need you to open a portal to the surface," Izuku said, slamming his hands on the desk. "Something went wrong with work. Blitz, Moxie, and Millie are in trouble." "Oh?" Luna looked up in confusion. "What are you talking about? Blitz didn't text me about any problems." "How do you know they?" "There's no time to explain why I know." Izuku pulled off his green sweatshirt, leaving him in just his black t-shirt, and put on a dark green backpack he brought with him from the living room. I I just know somehow. That's not an answer. The wolf frowned, unconvinced, and to be very honest, she was beginning to view him with suspicion. Izuku paused for a moment when he noticed the look she was giving him, and now that he thought about it, he couldn't blame her. He'd just heard himself asking her to open a portal to the surface, a territory where those from hell were never supposed to touch, and to top it all off, it was being asked by a stranger they'd barely known for a few hours in total. Many other demons would surely want to take any opportunity to gain power like that. It was understandable from that point of view that, although it is still only assumed, there are certain unbreakable laws that separate heaven from earth for very good reasons. Although somewhat unsure, Izuku tried to appear serious about the critical situation. Listen, I know I'm not giving you a reason or anything for you to believe me, and that I'm still a stranger who… Well, Blitz seems to have brought it in off the street as if nothing, but… Just trust me, they're in grave danger. Open a portal so I can go do my job as a bodyguard. Please. Again with that strange attitude, LOONA really didn't know what to say about it with him, saying that the team was in danger and that she trusted him despite not giving her a reason to do so. How gullible did he think she was? She accepted that she was lazy, but that didn't mean she was going to be careless when sending a rookie demon to the other side. Although Blitz still didn't answer her messages when she checked his phone, that was something very out of the ordinary when he always flooded her with messages full of cheesy nonsense. Maybe, just maybe, something had happened. Good. She pulled the book out of the desk drawer, quickly flipping to a section where it flashed for a brief second, creating a portal in the middle of the room. You better not be lying to me about this. Thank you. Saying that with a smile, he launched himself into the portal. The full moon appeared in the sky behind thin clouds, letting the soft light of the night star fall on Izuku's fur as he ran through the forest. He didn't know this place, but he vaguely remembered some details of the area from the vision that would lead him to that cabin where Moxie was being held captive. It was the closest and only one he knew anything about, so he decided to go for the first one. As he moved, he couldn't help but think that he was once again stepping on the ground with his feet. Oh well, his paws in this case. There were so many things he was feeling, from the pleasant sensation of nature around him, to the bittersweet feeling that this would be nothing more than a passing pleasure that he was no longer allowed to live off, because like someone sent to hell, he must clearly understand that this was no longer his place. He killed hundreds of government assets, teamed up with a heroine they themselves tainted as a criminal, died in a government building, and was now a demon. He couldn't just go back to his life because he no longer had one. He officially passed away, and right now he was surely being publicly remembered as a hero who gave his life to protect his country. The same garbage they made up with his mentor. But anyway, now the only thing on his mind was to go save Blitz, Millie and Moxie. Passing through some bushes, he finally reached the cabin, where, without a second thought, he burst through the door, passing through the dining room with a huge hole in it from the previous events, went up the stairs, and with a powerful upward punch, he shattered the roof through which he jumped into the attic. Moxie. Where are you? The green-haired man called, looking all over the place, but it was too dark to see. It was then that he noticed the moonlight filtering through the small window in the wall above him, which was obviously broken by something hitting him, and when he saw pieces of broken rope at his feet and no sign of scattered glass, he deduced that Moxie had escaped on her own and had come out through that same window. Sigh of relief, phew. It's good that he escaped. I thought something bad had happened to him, Izuku replied, smiling slightly while he was sweating nervously. He must have gone looking for the rest. I must hurry and leave this. This. His pupils immediately shrank as the intent to save his coworker faded, and made him realize where he was. With a hand over his mouth showing signs of gagging, Izuku felt his legs lose stability for a moment, so he placed a hand on the chair next to him until he moved it away in horror at the sight of the decapitated corpse woven to the chair as a cover. But he jumped again in fright when he stepped on those worn pieces of rope, thinking about the number of innocent people who had been tied up with those same things. I could see it. I could see with total clarity the sick image of slaughter and torture of severed bodies that adorned the place like furniture or souvenirs that gave off that disgusting aroma of bloody flesh. It was horror. No, it was more than horrible, this was completely sick. Mayberry had told him everything he knew about this woman and her family, and he still didn't understand what he'd seen in the vision. Weren't they supposed to be a loving, peaceful family? What could be their reason for doing something like this? Were the children involved too? And how high is the death toll in this room? Izuku's gaze was so lost in trying to reason through this powerful crime scene that he didn't notice two smiling children peeking out from behind the human skin furniture, both holding a knife with dried blood in their hands. Slowly and silently, they began to walk toward the young demon who was turning his back on them, staring at the ceiling. With his other toy having escaped through the window, they now had a completely unsuspecting one who came to them on his own. They couldn't wait for more excitement. His parents will be very proud when they show them the head of the prey they caught. Ah. And just as their father taught them, they gripped their knives firmly and lunged, aiming for the back of their prey. And at the same time, Izuku turned to look at them over his shoulder in a blank manner, with an erratic violet glow in his eyes. In the middle of a clearing in the forest, BLITZO and Millie were on a stake completely tied with poo cables. He looked somewhat dizzy after waking up from the blow from that crazy woman, something that was denoted by the lump swelled on his forehead. While Millie, despite the dried blood running down the side of her head, tried to remain firm while looking venomously at the human couple in front of them. Ralph laughed as he poured gasoline on the ground next to his feet, and Martha, who was nearby, held a torch in her left hand that illuminated her sinister demonic eyes and skull earrings in her ears. Arg. I had a damn chance to shoot her. Damn it, Moxie. Blitz grumbled in frustration. I'm going to punish him very hard in bed when we get back. Millie accompanied him in the same way, and this time I'll use the monster's trunk instead of the blue banana. Wait a minute, Moxie likes getting fucked from behind. Her boss looked at her in surprise at this revelation. Oh, come on. And I find out just as we're about to be slaughtered like pigs. It's not fair. Now I can't make fun of him, damn it. Satan. Martha declared loudly. We return your filthy creatures to the depths of hell. She raised her torch. May the root of evil remain honored as we continue your work. But that said, Martha threw the torch underneath BLITZO and Moxie, who were still struggling to get free, but their escape was useless as the pair burst into laughter again as the fire ignited over the bodies of the creatures, melting their skin and organs in a beautiful sight of classic torture. Oh, forget it, the imps were unharmed. What the fuck? Martha exclaimed, looking at her husband in confusion. He just shrugged his shoulders in the same state of confusion. How come they're not dead yet? Yeah, sorry, that's not exactly how things work, ma'am. BLITZO explained with an amused smile. You see, your fire doesn't really hurt us at all. Although I could fake it if it turns you on. He commented, then did a mock act of agony with Millie giggling in the background. Damn, I should have known those TV shows were lying to you. Martha thought for a few moments about an alternative until she had a better idea that made her smile. Oh well, in that case, I'll blow their heads off with a bullet. What do you think about that, Mr. Comedy? She reloaded the rifle in her hands. Yep, that would be more effective. Blitz confirmed. Blitz. Millie scolded him. What? Don't look at me like that. Blitz defended himself under the reproachful look of his employee. He would have done it anyway, even if I hadn't told him. I just fast forward our last moments. Of. Life. Shit. Haha. Martha put on a big smile again as she raised the gun pointing at the demons who gasped in fear. This was not a joke, they were really going to die. While all this was unfolding, a Moxie holding his revolver, leaning his back behind a tree, watched the whole scene and tried to catch his breath. It was actually quite tiring running through the forest in search of his wife and his boss who were in mortal danger, but he was overly relieved when he had finally found them, although not in a good situation, one that was caused entirely by his stupid mistake, and now it was up to him to correct it with the 4 bullets in his magazine. He moved quickly like a flea silently among the trunks, bushes and rocks, looking for the best shooting angle, ending up sticking his head out from between some berry bushes and pointing his sights at the back of the head of the crazy woman with the enormous butt who didn't notice his presence. You're mine now, bitch. The devil whispered concentratedly, slowly pulling the trigger. Martha didn't leave that sharp smile as she continued pointing at the skulls of her prey. I'm really going to enjoy this. But first. Oh, Ralphie. She hummed haughtily. The man, smiling in the same way, spun a pistol in his hands, immediately firing it backward when he stopped it. Boomarg. Moxie. Millie exclaimed in surprise as her husband was pushed out of the bush, but quickly showed great distress as she watched him clutching his chest, writhing on the ground with a growing pool of blood. Moxie. Damn. Blitz cursed when he saw that he had been discovered. NGH. Arg. Lying on the ground, Moxie looked in shock at his blood-covered hand sticking out of the hole in the side of his chest. W what? H how? Ha 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 ha. The woman laughed loudly. Did you really think I didn't hear you coming, bro? She turned to look at him condescendingly as Ralph advanced menacingly towards the demon. Please, my dear husband and I could hear you from a distance. We have a very well-developed sense of hearing from all our marriages to defenseless creatures that prowled around our house. Why do you think I was able to dodge the first bullet they fired so easily? BLITZO opened his eyes in surprise. Wait a minute, so I didn't miss the shot. Of course not, thanks to whatever you did to move the gun, it made that bullet go straight to my pretty little head. She told in a laughing manner, feigning innocence until she recovered her mocking expression. I just pretended to be clumsy for fun. Oh, how bad for you. But very good for us, Ralph added, smilingly pointing his gun at the scared Moxie, at the same time that Martha did the same with the 2 tied to the stake. With the little strength he had and trying to ignore the burning pain in his chest, Moxie crawled with one arm in an attempt to get away from his captor and somehow save them all, an action that did not go unnoticed by Ralph, who found this desperate act of survival entertaining. Take care of their heads, Martha. I want to have 3 new additions in our trophy room, hahaha, he replied amusedly, starting to walk slowly towards his wounded prey. Okay. The woman agreed, looking even more excited as she rattled the charger. That also means I get to torture them while I practice target shooting on their bodies. Wait a minute. I hate both physical and emotional torture, but physical torture more. Blitz smiled nervously. Couldn't you at least consider shooting the heart? That would be more acceptable, you know what, Martha? It's better to cut out the chatterbox's tongue first. Ralph said cynically. His screams are more irritating than pleasurable. This alerted BLITZO, who began to sweat in terror when the deranged woman happily pulled out a knife from behind her. Where the hell did you get that from? Did you have it stuck in your ass or something? He immediately started kicking in terror, looking up at the sky. Help. Someone save me from this crazy witch with fake tits. Hey, my girls are 100% natural, you piece of shit. Martha responded, offended, showing her chest out and standing firm. No matter how much you scream, their guardian angel will never come. We are the only ones who live in these parts, and the trees muffle the screams of our prey. Besides. She widened her smug smile with the knife ready. Who would come to help a group of filthy and disgusting demons like you? Unable to crawl any further, the pain from the open wound consumed all of Moxie's energy, and he fell back, breathing heavily, something he didn't have the chance to do for more than 3 seconds when the man aimed directly at his heart. Haha, you'll be the first one I'll put on my shelf, fatty. Ralph said to the badly injured Moxie, who covered himself with both arms in desperation. No, wait, flush. Boom. The man had fired his gun straight into the heart, but the bullet only hit the ground when the imp's body had disappeared in a blur in front of him. Where is it? Where did that thing go? He asked himself, walking slowly around the place, looking everywhere, until he finally found him several meters away, lying on a rock. He looked confused and had some kind of green jumpsuit tied to his wound as a makeshift bandage that stopped the bleeding. Whip. What the F? Uai. Ralph didn't have time to think when suddenly his arm with the gun was caught by a rope and he was suddenly pulled into the darkness of the forest that silenced his screams immediately. Meanwhile, with Martha and her victims, who didn't see what happened because of the distance, the woman's smile widened after hearing her husband's shot and then silence. Apparently, he had gotten his share of the fun, now it was her turn. Hehehe, looks like your attempted savior just kicked the bucket. Martha mocked with a big smile as she played with the knife. No, not my Moxie. Millie exclaimed through tears of anguish, desperately trying to free herself from her chains. Mox. BLITZO was in shock at what happened to his employee. No, to a member of his family, he didn't think a contract like this would get so out of hand that something like this could have happened. You fucking heartless bitch. Millie screamed, craning her neck to try to face her, filled with rage. Let me go immediately. I'm going to kill you, your husband, your children, your dogs, your grandma, your SHSHSHSHSHHHHH. You shouldn't waste your last moments breathing like that, darling, after all. Smiling, she points to the chest of the mangled devil. You won't be able to do it right with a hole in your chest like that scrawny little demon. Ahahaha. Am I right or wrong, Ralphie? I ask, ecstatically ready to begin the free dissection class. Not receiving an answer from her husband, Martha frowned. She hated it when she didn't get an answer. Hey Ralph. I ask you a question. She turned around angrily. When I ask you something, you answer me right away, or else you won't have any fun in the bed. How strange, she didn't see her husband anywhere. She'd recently heard her husband's gun fired. She knew the sound of it well from hearing it so many times, and considering that, she should have already returned dragging that demon's corpse. Is he sleeping with the remains? Yes, that must be the case. Whatever. He returned his attention, raising the knife. Time to have some fun. Boom. 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 Okay, there was no doubt that she had just heard her husband scream and her same gun go off too many times. Something had happened. Ralph. Martha exclaimed, running in the direction where the shots came from. When BLITZO and Moxie saw the psychopathic woman leave the scene, they both immediately opened their mouths in complete surprise when Moxie immediately came out of the bushes straight at them. Moxie. Sorry for taking so long. The little devil apologized, carefully untying the barbed wire. After being shot, I couldn't risk doing the same stupid thing. I had to wait for him to leave. Moxie. Millie cried in relief once free, cuddling with her partner with small smiles and moving their heads against each other affectionately. Ow. Yeah thanks, I'm fine too, Blitz spoke sarcastically as he fell to the ground after being freed and forgotten. Moxie helped her boss up, resting him on her shoulder as she looked at him remorseful. I'm sorry, sir. Ignoring what that crazy woman said, I purposely compromised our objective and put us in danger. It won't happen again, I promise. Apology accepted. His boss replied, smiling nonchalantly, in what would be a valuable lesson in trust, before bringing his menacing face closer to Moxie and making sure that only he could hear him. But if you ever do something stupid like that again or question even a tiny detail of the mission, I will fuck your ass up until you can't sit down for a whole month. Do you understand me? The employee swallowed heavily and nodded nervously at the warning. As much as he hated to admit it, he deserved any reprimand or punishment for ruining everything. That aside, that was a good trick you used to throw off that crazy woman, Moxie. Blitz commented, impressed by his clever distraction. I don't know how you did it, but it turned out to be a good distraction, faking the screams and gunshots. Very good detail to make it sound very real. Yeah, very clever of you, Mox. Millie chimed in, hugging him from behind as Blitz let go. Actually, I have nothing to do with that. Moxie clarified, confusing both ex-prisoners. I don't understand, if it wasn't you, then who the hell made all that fuss? Blitz asked, raising an eyebrow. Millie looked closely at the diving suit covering her husband's wound, her eyes widening in surprise when she recognized it. Wait a minute, that's from. Sigh, I think I judge things a little quickly. Placing a hand on it, Moxie looked at the garment tied to him with a small smile. He came to help us. Where are you, Ralph? The woman exclaimed, coming out of the undergrowth, pointing in all directions. Normally she wouldn't be worried because of her good hearing and experience hunting, but something in the environment was disturbing her. Perhaps it was related to the fact that her husband wasn't answering her at all, or maybe it was something else she didn't understand, she wasn't sure. Brush. Who's there? He immediately pointed at some bushes that were shaking violently. Talk or I'll shoot. But when he got no answer again, he cautiously went to check what was making all the noise, reaching out to brush the leaves aside. Ralphie. She gasped in surprise at what she found. It was her husband's body, tied up with rope like an animal and with a piece of cloth over his mouth that only left him moaning as he moved desperately to free himself. Don't worry, dear, he'll untie the ropes right away and… flush. Martha screamed in excitement as something fast passed in front of her and made her husband's body disappear in the same way, causing her to start looking alertly everywhere and raising the shotgun as a protection from whatever was there. Heh, are you trying to confuse me? She declared, recovering that smug smile on her face. Whoever you are, I'm sorry to tell you that you won't succeed. It was clear there was something out there that had attacked and consequently incapacitated Ralph like a newborn fawn, but unlike her husband, she had that lethal sense of hearing that awakened after being shot by that wretch who had then committed suicide, since instead of rupturing her eardrum with a close shot, what it did instead was make her extra sensitive to all sounds. Boy, that was lucky. All you need to do now is calm your breathing, close your eyes, and focus on isolating all the sounds of nature around you so you can hear. I don't hear anything. The drop of sweat began to run down her forehead as insecurity slowly took over her face. It was more than obvious that there was something stalking her there. She could feel small breezes passing by her, as if someone were there, and several shadows dragging themselves through the trees, but there was no sound to cover said movement, and that made her more than nervous, because now she was practically deaf. Not seeing the source and the fact that she couldn't hear anything around her was already starting to irritate her. She felt like she was being stalked by what should be its prey, and it was unacceptable. Who's there? He demanded forcefully, showing courage. Do you think I'm scared just because I can't hear? Sound of gun magazine, come and show yourself so I can blow your brains out, you fucking coward. Just when she thought her self-confidence was going to fall, the strange feeling of fear rising inside her at feeling helpless. Something landed from the trees a few feet away from her. Arg, another one. Martha exclaimed irritably when she saw that green-furred horned demon whose face was staring at the shadowy floor. How many more of you are there out there? Izuku didn't say anything, just stood silently in that position. Wait a minute, so you were the one who attacked my Ralphie? But how did you do it? She declared, confused by the enormous difference in size and muscles between her husband and that spawn of Satan. Tired sigh. Whatever kid, let's get this over with quickly. I have dinner with my family that you yourselves interrupted, she said, setting her sights on the creature's heart. Murderers. Huh. Martha looked away when the demon finally said something. So many bodies in that room. So many innocent lives lost. Izuku clenched his fists tightly in suppressed anger. How many families have been destroyed? What are you babbling at me? Are you crazy or something? Martha said in a bored manner, not understanding the garbage he was throwing at her. You know what? I'm bored of this. Rest in pieces, spawn of Satan. Boom. And with that said shot against him, putting an end to his life. Or so she thought when shocked she saw Izuku tilting his head to one side and letting the lake bullet pass. "Aren't you ashamed?" The demon asked with the same empty tone and an erratic violet-pink glow as his pupils. You were lucky," Martha said, not at all perturbed by the dodge. "Surely it was just momentary luck from an action movie, nothing more. You won't be so lucky with the next bullet." Boom. Izuku bent his body to the side, letting the bullet pass, making Martha open her eyes in total surprise that he would do that again. "Don't you think about the consequences of your actions?" Boom. Clank. This time instead of dodging it, Martha's eyes nearly popped out of her head when she saw the young demon slam the bullet so hard it ended up embedded in a tree trunk. On both hands, Izuku was wearing some kind of metallic wristbands attached to a small device very similar to a pulley wheel with ropes tangled around it. "How can you sleep after massacring so many? Grrrrrrrrr, damn it." The woman exclaimed, tired of continuing to fail. She raised the rifle again and began to empty the entire magazine on the demon that was simply moving around the field between acrobatic movements, and she hated to admit it to the edge of her growing irritation, so well elaborated that she did not manage to connect a single shot. "Stop meddling in what does not concern you, creature of hell. Stop judging our family fun and die already." At that statement, the indignation in Izuku's eyes grew between the dodges as he clenched his fangs tightly. "Killing people is not a family pastime," he exclaimed furiously, planting his feet on the ground and leaping towards her with claws extended. Martha barely reacted in time to step aside from Izuku's onslaught, letting him pass. "He's fast," she thought in surprise. Izuku grabbed the ground, stopping his skid, beginning to run on all fours around the woman who continued firing burst after burst from her rifle at him, so he decided to confine her even more by jumping towards a tree and moving from branch to branch through the thick vegetation of the pines, keeping that erratic violet color in his eyes as he moved. Martha continued firing as best she could in the direction of that demon, proving a task somewhere between impossible and frustrating for two reasons. The thickness of the pines in the darkness and the fact that she could barely track its movements meant it moved in such a way that she couldn't hear its footsteps on the branches. At this moment, she was hunting the most annoying hopping rabbit she'd ever killed. Clack 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 clack. The hollow, dull sound that came as her finger pressed the trigger made her look down at her gun. She was out of bullets. Shit. Like an attacking predator, Izuku emerged from the thicket of a nearby pine tree, falling onto the grass above her with a slight skid, but was immediately pushed by both of the woman's legs, landing on his feet with one hand on the ground, but not before exhausting her patience with the total humiliation he was causing her. "You've got me tired." Martha pulled a hunting knife from behind her. "I'll skin you and make a stew out of your remains." "Ah." With that, she ran, raising the weapon towards him. The woman was hysterical. She was swinging the knife violently and uncontrollably at her prey in rage, while several of her locks of hair swung over her face. However, no matter how much she attacked him, that demon kept dodging it again and again, in such a way that he didn't even seem to make the slightest effort, as if she weren't a challenge for him. "Ah." Stretching her arm out, slashing with all her might, Martha smiled hysterically with happiness at having finally ripped the arm of that smug, conceited demon. It was only a matter of time before he burned a hole through her skull. No one was better than her, and no one would ever tell her or prove her wrong. Unfortunately for her, her happiness was only momentary. Her arm was fully extended after the cut, leaving her exposed to Izuku, who, ignoring the blood on his arm, which had been intentionally injured to create the opening, connected with a powerful hook to Martha's stomach, ultimately knocking all the air out of her lungs. And taking advantage of the woman's dizziness, Izuku pulled a duo of ropes from her wristbands that tangled around her body and positioned himself in an acrobatic jump, landing on her back where, with the same vines, he tied her wrists from behind, finally leaving her incapacitated. Martha tried desperately to fight against her bonds as did Ralph, but the ropes made it impossible for her to do so. Rah. She screamed in rage, continuing to wriggle and get him off her. "Let go of me, you damn demon. This isn't over yet. I'm going to kill you, devil's spawn." Izuku wasn't affected by her words, he just stared at her stoically while he continued to press his hands tightly against her back. "This is over. Izuku." The aforementioned turned his gaze, then found his boss, Millie and Moxie running towards him, showing a small smile of relief at seeing him. "Guys. Is everyone okay?" "Thanks to you we are," Millie commented with a grateful smile. "Thank you so much for saving us." The young man scratched the back of his neck with a slight blush and an embarrassed smile, which was the first time that had happened since he had arrived in hell. "You're welcome. I was just doing my job as a bodyguard, that's all." "That was amazing," Blitz said, throwing his arms up in excitement. "It was amazing how you humiliated that bitch, even better than how you did to those weirdos at the dumpster." Were you watching me?" Izuku asked, surprised by that detail. "Just a little." confirmed the smiling Millie. After Moxie untied us, we went in the direction of the noise of the gunshots. We saw you jumping everywhere without being touched at any time. And it was quite a sight. Blitz exclaimed. By the way, what are these things with strings? He asked, interested, taking the device from the young man's right wrist. Oh, well. There's something I bought at the store this morning. Izuku with a wistful half-smile looked at his hands, remembering the times when he could still use the black whip. Let's just say there's something I felt very comfortable using in my last job. Izuku, I'm sorry. Moxie stood in front of him, scratching his arm in embarrassment, finding it difficult to look him in the eyes. You don't know this, but from the beginning of this day I didn't trust you because of your strange behavior and those things from your old job that didn't seem to convince me. He lowered his head, placing a hand on his sweatshirt as a bandage. But even so, you came and saved me. I'm sorry for not trusting you. You don't have to apologize for anything, Moxie. The imp raised his head, noticing the young man's understanding look, because in his place, he would have also had several suspicions of someone like him. It's normal that you have doubts about me. After all, I'm new in this job. I'm 18 years old, and I'll be in charge of your safety at work. He embodies a small smile, so you have nothing to apologize for. Everything is fine. Moxie was a little surprised by his response. She even felt it was unfair that he didn't show any annoyance or indignation. I mean, she had just told him that she didn't trust him at all, and it seemed to affect him in the least. That was very strange. But in a good way. Well, the truth is, I'm not worried about our safety anymore. I think I feel safer with you around, buddy. He said sincerely, smiling back, which the young man accepted in kind. I still can't believe you're here. Blitz said happily, seeing his employee, then clasping his hands together and making excited puppy eyes. Did you really come all the way to this place just to save us? Izuku was in shock upon hearing that question and looked at his hands in surprise. Had he really just crossed the barrier between life and death to save some demons? Wow, that was strong. I mean, even in life, he had classified beings like them as a total danger to humanity that should be eradicated without any mercy or interest in his plans. But after several recent factors and understanding a little about each of them, he saw them as innocent lives threatened by monsters dressed in human skin. Had his reasoning about things really changed that much since he died? It's a little complicated to explain some details or how I knew they were in trouble. He commented, not very sure about telling about those visions he had, or how he could anticipate a second before each movement of the woman while they fought, but even so, he gave a genuine confident smile to his boss. Indeed, yes, I came to help you. Millie and Moxie were touched by Izuku's sincere response as he expressed his concern for them, while Blitz did his best to hold back his tears of pride with a trembling lower lip. Izuku didn't know it, but at that moment he had earned the admiration of the trio of demons. Well, I think it's time to call LOONA and tell him that the portal home will open. Blitz commented, wanting to return and celebrate this day even better with a new member, more than deserving of being part of this beautiful family. But first. Nagant. Martha growled through her teeth, still trying to free herself as these fools continued to talk about their feelings, until her attention was drawn to the shadowed figures of the four demons looming over her in an ominous manner. There's a matter we have yet to resolve. Blitz finished, plastering on a big, sharp smile. Arg! Exclaimed the bound woman as she was thrown against the wall of her house and fell heavily next to her husband and two children, tied in the same way, except for the cloth tied over their mouths, preventing them from speaking. Well, who would have thought? Blitz knelt down, smirking in front of the family, the rest of his employees standing behind him, glaring at them. Looks like the victim roles have been reversed. Isn't that so funny? Boop. He poked the woman's nose in amusement, quickly withdrawing his finger before being bitten by her sharp teeth. Grrrrrrrrr. Martha's growl didn't intimidate the demon at all, instead, it only made his smile grow. Shut up, bitch. Millie said authoritatively, pointing at her. I've had enough of putting up with you and your stupid family, so unless you want to suffer the loss of those sagging bags of fat on your chest, I suggest you stay quiet, got it? I think it's time to end this contract, sir. Moxie commented seriously with his arms crossed. Ojojoho, yes. Completely ecstatic, Blitz pulled out the rifle from the beginning with which he aligned the sight on the angry face of the woman. Fuck the pay. The satisfaction of her death is all I need, he declared, about to pull the trigger. Until a hand got in the way of his side. Oh. Izuku? He asked, seeing his bodyguard stand in front of him, turning his back with an outstretched hand stopping him. Blitz? Izuku asked calmly with shadows covering his eyes. Let me do this. The head demon didn't believe what he just heard him say. Wait. Are you telling me that you? Please. Izuku looked at him out of the corner of his eye, showing great seriousness not only in his eyes, but in his words. Let me take care of them. Slowly, from a look of shock, Blitz's face contorted into an exaggerated expression of sadness and tears in his eyes, but not in a bad way, as a moved smile appeared on his trembling lips as he wiped his eyes with his forearm. This was what he wanted in the first place, and it was what made him feel sad when Izuku had rejected him. He wanted this to be a special mission for his new employee, one in which he would take the big step to the beautiful moment so important in his life. It was like a feeling comparable to when a father sees his son ride a bike without training wheels for the first time, or when you finally lose your virginity to the most popular girl in the class. Of course, after that same girl accused you of rape despite that not being the case. Meh, details. And in this very special case, it was his first official murder in the company. Sniff. Sniff. He felt so proud of him. Moxie, would you lend me your weapon? Izuku asked, still with his back turned, extending his open palm. And my revolver. Of course. Although surprised by her request, the devil took his personalized weapon out of his jacket to hand it to her. But didn't you say you didn't know how to use a gun? The moment after receiving the revolver, Izuku surprised him next when he began to calibrate it with great skill to make it more suitable for him and taking off the safety. Bang 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 bang. Immediately firing 4 shots at the same family photo in the living room of the other room, a perfectly aligned hole was seen in the forehead of each family member, leaving the 3 devils' jaws to drop at such skill and precision displayed in less than 2 seconds. If you don't mind. His voice brought them out of their stupor, watching Izuku reloading the gun. I'd like some space while I do this. Do you think you could? Yes, no problem, we don't mind. Blitz declared with a big smile as he dragged his 2 married employees by their collars towards the front door. We'll wait out here while you finish. Happy killing. With that, they slammed the door leaving Izuku and the hostages alone. The young man breathed a sigh of relief that they would agree to give him space for what he was about to do next. He didn't want to have them as an audience in this, so that subject was settled. And totally ignorant of the gossiping demons peeking through the window like fucking stalkers eating movie snacks. He walked slowly until he stood in front of the woman of the family, pointing at her face. Oh, yeah. This is going to be fucking good. Blitz commented, watching the show very closely as he ate his snack, then held out the popcorn packet in the air, without taking his eyes off the window. More butter, please. Immediately Moxie, in the same state as her boss drinking her soda, complied with his request, while Millie was at her side, enjoying a pack of gummy bears with a smile. Their shape sure gives it its flavor. You're probably wondering what the hell is going on. Does Izuku know how to handle a gun? Wasn't he supposed to be inexperienced, like he said before? Well, let me clarify a little detail about that may have gone completely unnoticed by everyone. He lied. To put it a bit better, while he was still alive he never eliminated any of his targets with his powers. I mean, he did have the need to use them to deal with those with problematic quirks and all, but the idea of choking them with his black whip, throwing them from heights with his floater, or tearing their bodies to pieces with one for all was too sadistic if you think about it a little more in the real context of killing with his powers. That's why Lady Nagant taught her, through her experience, the proper handling and use of firearms, a way to cleanly finish off her victims, so to speak, with a single, precise bullet. If she was going to make the decision to kill, she would do so with standards that didn't involve torture and suffering, something that also made her mentor proud of her decision. The young man was surprised by the sudden quiet laughter of the woman he was holding a gun to her forehead. What's so funny? Oh, nothing in particular. Martha said casually, showing no fear of her situation. It's just the fact of knowing who the demon child in front of me is. She looked at him maliciously. Deku. The aforementioned opened his eyes wide upon hearing his former hero name, but quickly shook his head. How do you know my name? He demanded forcefully, pointing at him again. That horned demon in a silly suit called you Izuku. He showed a relaxed smile instead. Put that gun down, I know you're not going to shoot us. Why are you so sure about that? Izuku contradicted without lowering it. Really you died and went straight to hell. The woman mocked viciously. Only God knows what you did wrong to become a disgusting demon. Answer me. Izuku demanded loudly, bringing the gun even closer, but Martha still remained unaffected by his tone. From what I see you don't know. Very well, I'll tell you, Mr. Hero, Martha said, smiling very confidently. There is no one who doesn't know your story. Izuku Midoriya, alias Deku, a young promising hero from Japan who fought many dangers, saved hundreds of innocent lives, and gave his life to save his country. The news that was released by your government that gave a conference about it on a podium. It was very boring. So that's the story they gave me as a cover. The young man thought monotonously. And that's why I know you're not going to shoot us, that's not your style, you don't have a reason to kill us. She settled more than calmly against the wall next to her family, without wiping that confident smile off her face. Stop acting rude and call the police already so my family can be declared innocent faster in court. Hey, didn't you hear me? The woman asked impatiently again. Just make the fucking call and save us your little hero speech or any of that shit. Hey. Are you ignoring me? She claimed, annoyed seeing how that dumb hero didn't answer her, something she hated quite a bit. I told you that. Martha froze in fear the moment she saw the young man's cold gaze directed at her as he released immense pressure into the air. That was not a look of mercy. Did you say? Innocent? You're wrong. The horrible and sickening images of that addict both in his vision and personally passed through his mind, keeping his gaze fixed on the scared woman. All of you. He points angrily at the entire family with indignation. You're disgusting murderers. Remember the statement I mentioned about Izuku's first goal with Lady Nagant and that it changed things forever for him? Well, this current situation made him remember exactly that day and what happened. When they tracked down the corrupt official who was altering the data of people and heroes who had disappeared without a trace, after stalking him in search of the perfect moment, they managed to corner him in the middle of a dead end. Lady Nagant looked stoic as she told Izuku that this would be his first test if he wanted to follow her on that path, handing him a gun and telling him to remember the way she taught him how to hold and handle one. Still, Izuku couldn't hold the gun properly, his hands were shaking and he was clearly scared, trying to stay out of it. He couldn't do it. He never thought about killing anyone after what happened to Shigaraki, no matter what his mentor told him about the need to bring justice in this way. He simply didn't dare to shoot. That moment of weakness allowed the target to flee in terror through another path in the alley, thus initiating a chase that led them to the main street where other people were wandering peacefully. Like a crowbar breaking, Izuku lowered the arm that held the gun, taking a deep breath that he released in a long, tired sigh. I think it's time to let go of reality a little. Sigh. You know. Actually, you're wrong, you don't know me. There are things you don't know about me and many more that were surely very badly said in that stupid conference. He commented calmly, beginning to slowly raise his arm with his weapon, but let me tell you one thing, so you're very clear about it. I will never forgive monsters like you again. All the faces of his targets over the years flashed through his mind, including the horrible things they did to others just for personal gain. He kept raising the gun, killing, torturing, going and doing whatever you want with innocent lives that have nothing to do with you without caring about the consequences. Or whoever ends up affecting. Among a crowd of people on the street, a horrified Izuku watched with a completely dead look as some police officers were handcuffing the officer desperately trying to free himself, while others were enclosing the bodies of a mother and her small son in black bags with a gunshot wound to their foreheads, who were victims of the crossfire. I hesitated for a moment before one and others paid the price for my mistake for it. She closed her eyes, remembering the words her mentor had given her after that same accident, which changed her life forever. Don't blame yourself for this, it's normal that you're afraid of taking a life, and that's okay, that's what separates us from the trash I'm hunting. I also felt that way in my early days. That's why I mentally prepared myself for the horrible things all those men did in their lives, and then I stopped seeing them as humans. That's my reason for never wavering and ending their lives. Izuku. If you're going to follow me on this path, answer me one thing. Do you want to know my reason for killing? Izuku removed the safety of the gun between the eyes of the scared and trembling woman, looking at her with firmness and disdain in his eyes. To save others from demons like you. Boom. Poof. It was the sound of a pair of streamer cones exploding from Millie and Moxie's hands. Later, all the Imp employees were laughing and celebrating in the living room, which was completely restored. What the hell, everything was charred by the fire, the furniture, the floor and the walls. And now it looked like nothing had happened. Someone explained this to me. Back to the memory bus, do you also remember that call Izuku made before talking to Mayberry in the burned out room? Well, it turns out he had called an interior repair and restoration catalog he had seen at the mall that morning, and to his relief, this turned out not to be a scam since in exchange for all the money he had left from the collector's wallet, they were able to return the entire section of the building to normal. It's worth mentioning that Moxie was almost crying with joy at finally seeing a clean work environment, hugging Izuku's leg in tears, babbling controversies about how it was a blessing from heaven to have him in hell and such. It took Millie and Luna to get him off her leg as he refused to let go, even saying how lucky they were. The poor job with a degrading and dirty break room, understand a little, got emotional. They were all wearing birthday hats and enjoying a slice of the cake that had luckily survived a fire in the mini fridge, holding a white banner that read, "Congratulations on completing your first contract, Izuku." Above it was a crossed out list of company names, in red letters. Everyone seemed to be celebrating happily while chatting amongst themselves about frivolous things, or reluctantly signing the cast on Blitz's injured arm. In short, everyone seemed to be enjoying the moment. Except for a certain rabbit with a thoughtful expression, arms crossed in a corner, having his plate of cake on the floor. Despite being clear about his reasons for doing so, he still had a clear image of him executing an entire family, including those children. They were an evil family, but even so. Here he was, celebrating with cake alongside demons, his hands stained with blood once again from his actions and decisions made to save others. And from there, we moved on to the next point that wouldn't let him come up with a reasonable answer. Ignoring everything around him, he went to blindly save Blitz, Millie and Moxie from those monsters dressed as humans. In short, he cared about the lives of some demons from hell, but besides that, he didn't understand why he didn't feel guilty for having done it. I'm not supposed to feel empathy for a demon, especially given the work they do. It goes against all their morals and everything that is good. I mean, why would he care about a quiet demon who loves his wife and refuses to hurt an innocent person? A kind, energetic little devil with an introverted and curious attitude like Millie. Or a narcissistic, self-centered creature from hell, but with a deep desire to feel the unconditional support of a family and form bonds of friendship with others like Blitz. Wow. Izuku, I don't know, I expect that reasoning. It was a short time, but long enough to fully understand the trio, thanks to his astonishing powers of deduction. They were demons, but they only seemed to be pure-blooded, since they weren't exactly depicted in biblical texts as evil beings who aid the devil in torturing sinners, but rather other beings with their own will, distinct personalities, and something that somehow made them more human than those he had just killed. Now I didn't exactly see them as evil murderers slaughtering innocent lives, more like. I saw them as just another group of people eating cake together and talking amusedly among themselves. Heh. A small laugh escaped her lips as she looked at her portion of dessert on the floor. I think hell changed my perspective on things a lot. She lifted the plate in her hands and brought a small spoonful of the cake she found to her mouth, which she found quite delicious, looking at the gang that she now saw in a different way, feeling more confident in them. I think I could tell them the truth. Although he looked a little hesitant for a moment, Izuku put on a serious look and went to his coworkers to reveal something he wasn't sure he should tell them. And that was his story as an anti-hero and how he ended up here with only good intentions. There were still so many things he didn't know about this bizarre hell, but what he wasn't sure he knew was how demons born here would react to the news that he was once a human, and to top it off, a hero in his past life. He told Blitz about it before, and he seemed to take it well, but considering his new boss's relaxed and unconcerned attitude, he couldn't rest easy thinking about what other demons would do to him if they knew the truth. Would they mock him? Would they torture him? Would they exile him to the deepest circle of hell to mock and torture him? He didn't know because he didn't have the confidence to talk to others. Until now. Guys, can I have your attention for a moment? Izuku asked seriously, immediately catching the eyes of the 4 employees and the contract client. I have something to tell you. And that's why I ended up here. The young man finished explaining, closing his eyes in anticipation of the possible rejection or punishment he would receive for pretending to be a demon originally from here, and oh, so that's why you were acting nervous during the questions. Moxie commented simply, now understanding the suspicious tone in his answers about his former job. And I thought it was something more shocking. Oh shit, forgive me for what I said before about humans, Izuku. Millie apologized in an uneasy and worried way as she remembered those hurtful words in front of him. I didn't mean to offend you, you are a great guy, really. Whatever. Was Loona's totally unpredictable and original response with a hand on her hip. Huh. The former hero prospect blinked twice, confused by the scenario or the words he was most likely expecting. No. I get it. You don't care that I used to be human. My affiliation is a hero, or that I saved lives. Moxie. No. Millie. Nope. Loona. No. Ladies and gentlemen, our hero just had a cerebral arrest from what would be the most elaborate and stupid worry that was gnawing at him for almost 2 full days. Well. Thank you. Wait, did you really think we'd be upset about that? Moxie asked with a sympathetic smile. I think you worried too much. Did you forget that we care for people who died for revenge? Plop. Izuku slapped himself hard in the face, and it's not that he was a masochist, but he hoped he left a nice red mark on his face. Ugh, I forgot. Gosh, his mind was so wrapped up in all the other worrying matters of his situation that he had completely forgotten about that small and important detail that could have saved him from too much self-induced mental stress. Oh, I feel like an idiot. Your story is so sad, Izuku. Millie said with big sad eyes, holding both hands together as she looked at him with pity. It's so unfair that after going through all that you ended up here in hell. But I'm still glad I met you. Don't worry, you have our full support to face things. The young man couldn't help but put on a grateful smile at the little devil's words. Thank you so much, Millie. I really appreciate it. See? I told you. Blitz said from beside him. Just like me, everyone else doesn't give a shit whether you were once human or not. It's not something that really matters or has much impact. I mean, hello. Hell. He reminded his employee about the small talk they had the day before when Izuku had opened up to him and that he was actually overthinking things. And speaking of things that really matter. He turned with a frown and crossed arms towards Mayberry behind him. It's time to pay the contract agreement, bitch. We already killed that bitch and the rest of her family. By the way, you forgot to mention that it was a group of crazy psychopaths with fucking arms. He yelled at her angrily, pointing his finger at her intensely. So you better pay us double what was agreed upon for that important lack of information. Or else I'll. Okay, here you go. The woman immediately handed him a bag full of bills in the hand he was pointing at, leaving him and the others behind their boss with their eyes wide open. Ah. Okay. Normally these miracles only happen in heaven or in soap operas, with a budget more shitty than the Rose of Guadalupe. Blitz answered, unable to be jumping with excitement, while checking the exuberant amount of cash in his hands. Okay, what's the catch, apple butt? He asked with a frown and distrust counterfeit bills. Mafia money? Does it have a hidden tracker so you know where it is and steal it while we're all sleeping for a painkiller hidden in the cake we just ate? Okay, here you go. The woman immediately handed him a bag full of bills in the hand he was pointing at, leaving him and the others behind their boss with their eyes wide open. The customer's positive review brought a big smile to the faces of the Blitz family and their senior employees, but they still couldn't believe it. Never before had they received double their contract pay or even a positive review for their work. And all of this was made possible thanks to the company's newest employee. Thank you very much, pair. Ahem. Dear and esteemed client. Blitz said, hanging an arm around Izuku's neck and patting his chest proudly. But as much as I like to take all the credit, this was possible thanks to our new bodyguard. He personally took charge of annihilating that lunatic and her family. He said while the young demon scratched the back of his neck with a slight nervous smile. The truth is that it was a little strange to accept praise after so much time as a vigilante, even if it was for having executed someone else's life. I see. The woman said with a subtle smile, approaching Izuku and handing him a small wad of bills. Here, this is a bonus for you for keeping the deal perfectly. Oh, thanks. The green-haired man accepted, somewhat surprised, taking the money and putting it in his pants pocket and then. Whoa. He said when he was suddenly grabbed by the neck of his shirt by Mayberry, who faced him with a big mischievous smile. And this is for giving me good service. The next thing that was seen, to the total surprise of the workers, was the client planting a wild and passionate kiss on the lips of an Izuku, who had his eyes wide open due to what had just happened. After sucking his soul for almost half a minute, Mayberry pulled away with a thin line of saliva at the corner of their mouths and turned with a satisfied smile towards the exit, swaying her hips and leaving behind the young man's white body, petrified in stupefaction. Once he left, the room remained silent for a long time. The truth is that everyone was still surprised by how, after what seemed like years, they had received a good review, a large payment, and extra compensation from the client for the new employee. Wow. I didn't expect that. LOONA commented, coming out of her surprise. I already suspected she liked them younger than her. Moxie commented thoughtfully, narrowing her eyes. I mean, who enjoys teaching brats these days? Only a pedophile would do that. This is amazing. We fulfilled a contract and the client paid us in full without any regrets, complaints, refund requests, or death threats on Twitter. Yay team. Millie exclaimed, throwing her arms in the air. Haha, that's right. Blitz shared, smiling with the same dirty smile as his employee, then patting his bodyguard on the back. And all this is thanks to our new. Boom. Ah. Izuku. Blitz yelled, clutching his head in fear as Izuku's body fell stiff onto the ground. No way. That bitch injected a paralyzer with her mouth when she kissed him. He said excitedly before turning around and running out of the store. Hey, come back here. I'm going to charge you triple for drugging a member of my family. And while the screams of the company boss continued to echo outside the place, Moxie and Millie watched somewhat worriedly the young man's lifeless body trying to make him react, while LOONA only touched him with a stick and asked him if he was still alive. If his first day in hell filled him with post-traumatic stress, the second was in itself a learning and reflection experience, a rather strange change if you ask me. Maybe Izuku is trapped in hell with a quartet of demons straight out of a modern adult cartoon, willing to kill to help others, and facing an uncertain future as he figures out what to do with his immortal life. But if there was one thing that made it all a little more bearable, it was the company of those same demons. For the time being he decided to stay as their bodyguard and protect them, because if he thought about it, from all the possible nightmarish monstrosities and an even worse fate after death, if that was even possible, that is, he actually seemed to have gotten lucky in ending up with Blitz and his other companions, who, to his disconcerting surprise, he could consider them to be the best beings in the underworld that he could end up finishing off. So yes, this would be the path Izuku had decided to follow. It wasn't luxurious or perhaps ethical, due to the company's way of operating, but it was the path he felt most comfortable following. Or well, I guess that's what Izuku would think before his extremely pubescent brain exploded from kissing a woman for the first time. If you think about it, Izuku Midoriya died without having hugged a woman, had a relationship, kissed or loved, in fact he even died a virgin. I just hope that doesn't affect him too much in the future. That's it guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. With that, take care.